Once upon a midnight dreary, whilst I pondered weak and weary over a many quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, whilst I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if of something gently rapping at my chamber door. "Cannot be a rat-man," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, "for this does not exist and nothing more." But then this grace here beguiling my sad fancy into smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no skaven, ghastly, grim, and ancient skaven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me thy name on the night's Aquitian's shore." Quoth the skaven, "Fuck you, man-thing!" Welcome to the Fluffenhammer. Roll the music.
Oh, starting with a bit of Poe. Well, sort of, kind of, bastardized Poe. But yeah, one of the few poems I can quote from beginning to end.
Yes, yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. I mean, like, you know, for someone who is a language junkie and who likes poetry quite a lot, The Raven is like the most finely cut diamond. It's exquisite. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And you just bastardized it.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I've always said that Edgar Allan Poe needed more swearing and needed more rat people.
Apparently so. Apparently so.
I mean, would you be up there for the fall of the House of Thankwall? I know I would be.
That would be quite amusing, actually. Fall of the House of Sigmar, that might be fun. That's something I'm looking forward to actually happening in the Broken Realms at some point.
Yes. The Sigmarillion, it looks like it's going to be falling over at some point. I think someone's going to give it a damn good push.
Hasn't it? It's got to happen. Akshi has to... It's not Akshi, is it? Akshi's the realm of fire. What's Sigmar's realm? That's it. It has to open its doors at some point, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Or the doors have to be broken down at some point.
And the best thing to break down the the doors of the walls of God are, of course, tiny mutated chaos dwarfs with really big battering rams, and that's how you do it.
Well, I mean, I think they missed a trick with Kragnos. I mean, the obvious thing to do with him was have him break down the walls, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
the ultimate force of destruction against the ultimate force of civilization. That was the obvious thing to do with him, and they kind of dropped the ball on that one, or dropped the hammer, as it were.
Yeah. As we keep getting told off for doing it, I'm going to now do the introductions. Hi, I'm Adam. Over there is Andy.
Hello.
And over there is George.
Hi.
Now, you can't tell me off. You know who you are. And as always...
That's right. That doesn't mean we're not going to ramble on about, like, things that are totally unrelated to Games Workshop either, because that's what we do.
Yeah, well, I've always said Warhammer is the jumping off point, and then we just go. We just go for it. We talk about anything that jumps into our point of view. Like, for example,
we do.
As I've just done The Raven, I think this is the perfect time to talk about the John Cusack film, The Raven.
It
absolutely is, because that film left me with a burning question.
It left me with a burning migraine.
Well, yes, that's because it's a terrible, terrible movie. But
my
burning question is, why did he have a friend raccoon? Where does that come from?
Everyone wants a trash band, a friend.
Absolutely.
They're like little robbers. They got little gloves on, little thing going over the face, so you don't know who they are. Mm-hmm. They're sneaky.
Honestly, the fact that he had a pet raccoon is up there with the "Give me your face" line from Revenge of the Fallen. It has taken over big chunks of my brain as I've just tried to process why is this here. It's like the entirety of Ridley Scott's Prometheus, a film that I spent at least a week trying to pass out before I realised it was just shit.
Yeah, me too. I've tried so hard with that film. I've tried so hard. because something that beautifully produced deserves to be better, right?
Yes.
It
Absolutely.
deserves to be better. It looks amazing.
Yes.
Like every shot looks incredible. Every creature, every sequence, every scene is gorgeous, as you'd expect from Ridley Scott. It just has the script of a half-assed B movie.
It has the script of a man who was just smashing his face against a keyboard in the vain hope that something would come out of it.
Yeah.
The main issue I have with Prometheus, and this is something I don't see anyone ever talking about, is that for the aliens to exist, everything that happens on Prometheus has to happen exactly the same way on a different planet.
Yeah. It's odd, isn't it, that like the same sequence of events has to happen. It's just it's one of the more bonkers elements of the film. There's many, by the way. I mean, if we do this, we'll just go on forever. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The fact that these scientists are the stupidest people on Earth, you know?
I like the geologist who doesn't know how to walk around underground.
I mean, my favorite thing about that is the film it specifically establishes that he is the one with the holo map, right?
Yep.
And yet he's the one who gets lost.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, what? That makes no. My favorite bits though are the stuff where they're just doing stuff that makes no sense. Like they get like the engineer's head, and it's just like, oh, contamination protocols. What are those? Who gives a shit, right? Are we even wearing gloves? No. Are we wearing masks? No, not really. Let's shove electrodes in its head.
Is that better or worse than the animal behaviorist and biologist who decides to pet the quite obviously predatory creature?
Yeah, right. The creature that splays out and hisses.
Yes.
Which, like, he's a zoologist, isn't he?
Yes.
That's his profession. Like, if you're a zoologist, like something that splays out and hisses and rears up, that is like universal. Don't fuck with me, right?
Yeah, but it's an alien, so it might be like really cool. It's like a greeting. Maybe that's the logic he had.
But it be not.
Right? No, wow, you found out later. Well, no, it gave him a handshake. It's just a very aggressive handshake.
Yeah, well, it gave him a handshake and then a really, really aggressive kind of like fellatio moment. But
yeah, I wanted to get to know him from the inside.
Yeah, clearly. No, that film. I mean, Covenant is even worse, actually. Covenant is boring. That's the big sin of Covenant. It's boring. You know, I mean, Prometheus, for all of its problems, is not boring.
No, true.
It's stupid.
But
it's like stupid as the day is long, but it's not boring.
My favourite scene in Covenant is the guy's magic penis. And you may be wondering, what are you on about? Nobody has a magic penis. And I'll tell you, there is a scene where, I can't remember any of the characters' names, the main female character starts to get upset because she is infertile.
Mm-hmm.
She then stops crying because his magic penis appears. And it's... Honest, I was sat there in the cinema with an ex-girlfriend of mine, just going, What? What?
Oh, my
What?
I've got to say, my favourite, the best bit of Covenant for me is the fact that they realised that Elizabeth Shaw's character from Prometheus was so godly unpopular that they just kill her unceremoniously off screen, and she's kind of a footnote. You know, it's David. Oh yeah, she's dead. There you are. That's it. The end.
Yeah.
I love that.
Honestly,
I love that.
When it comes to the Alien franchise, I'm just going to go back and read the Dark Horse comics and novelizations because...
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird things. There are good stories to be told in this universe.
Yes.
There are. They just never do it. That's the weird thing.
It's because the time that they went for something that was unlike what had come before. You got Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. And
you know what? I will go to bat for Alien 3.
Absolutely.
I will absolutely go to bat for Alien 3. I think Alien 3 is profoundly misunderstood. I think it's a very interesting piece of work, even given the shit that was going on behind the scenes. Even given that, I think it's a profoundly interesting film. It's got a lot going on underneath the surface. It's actually much cleverer than most people give it credit for or are willing to give it credit for. There's the metaphysics of it is fascinating. That notion of introducing sort of metaphysical symbolism into the Alien universe, love that to bits. It's kind of grotty and it's grimy and it's not quite baked. There are problems with it, but even the problems are kind of interesting.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And when you've got somebody as good as Charles Dutton just giving out the lines with the gusto that he gets. I mean, Charles Dutton is one of those actors that no matter what he does, you are there for it.
Actually, I mean, like, the whole cast, I mean, like, the cast of the Penal Colony, they're all just great, like, British actors, aren't they? All of them. And they're wonderful. I mean, every character in that thing is actually really wonderful. I mean, okay, it does that thing where, you know, again, where it unceremoniously kills off characters between films. You know, Hicks and Newt from the previous film, dead, done,
Yes.
they're dead. You know,
Which is a big part of the nihilism of 3. And this is a thing that annoys me.
Isn't it? Isn't it just, you know?
It's not that they are unceremoniously killed. They are killed because there is no other way.
No, you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. It is actually part of the spiritual journey that Ripley's character is going on, right?
Yeah.
It's shriving her of all attachment. There's almost like a slightly Buddhist sort of nirvana thing happening here, which she experiences at the end, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, she is happy with her death. She is...
Yeah, it's really interesting. I
happy
mean,
is probably the wrong word, but...
That film is better than people give it credit for. It
Absolutely
really is.
I adore Alien 3.
Yeah.
I will happily stand for Alien Resurrection as well, because that is a fun...
It's bonkers. I mean, it shouldn't technically have been an Alien film.
So very French.
It's mad, and it's not really... The way to look at Alien Resurrection is not as part of the same franchise. If you look at it in isolation, then it's fun. You know,
it
then
is
it's really
in the same.
fun.
It is, but it's so far removed and just so far set forward in time that it can just exist over there, and that's great because
it's sort of tangentially,
yeah, that's fine. And I actually really enjoy Resurrection. I think the newborn's shit, but for somebody who loves films like The City of Lost Children and Delicatessen, it sings to me. It's just madcap French.
It has
madness.
something. It does have something, and it is that madcapness. It's that just where it's just like concept after concept after concept, and it has absolutely no restraint at all.
None.
It's very European in that regard. I mean, it does remind me a little bit of sort of like giallo cinema, you know, sort of like Italian cinema, Italian horror cinema, where concepts just keep flying at you. And the films don't care whether they're overwhelming or whether they're esoteric or abstruse. It just chucks them at you. Kind of like that.
Yeah, it's good fun.
It's interesting. It's fascinating. I mean, give me something like Resurrection any day over like the Teflon produced by committee corporate nonsense of Alien versus Predator, for example.
Yeah. That's because those films
which is just a nothing film. I mean, there's nothing to grasp onto, you know.
And
as
it comes to something
Requiem,
that, as versus films go, it is easily the worst.
Yeah.
With Freddy versus Jason being at the top of the pile.
Absolutely, and like, I mean, and as for Alien versus Predator 2 Requiem, I have a high tolerance for bullshit at cinema. I've only walked out of 3 films in my entire life. That's one of them. And that's because it's incompetent. I mean, like, it is technically incompetent, you know? From the first sequence where you're seeing the pred alien being born, there are decisions being made, like directorial decisions that are like, it's like you gave the camera to someone who's not only never been through film school, but has never held a camera before. Like, stupid framing decisions. Which is like, anyone who's ever actually engaged with cinema knows why you don't do this. You know? Why you don't frame a shot like this, why you don't move the camera like this when this is happening. And I remember I was sitting there in the cinema getting furious with this thing. You know, getting angry with this thing. And you know, there just came a point where I was like, oh, fuck this. You know?
Andy.
Ah?
I would like to know 2 things from you. I want to know, A, what are your feelings on Alien vs. Predator Requiem? And 2, have you ever walked out of a film?
No, I've never walked out of a film. Was tempted to when I saw Epic Movie.
Oh, yeah, that would do it.
Yeah.
That would do it.
I actually don't mind Requiem that much. I'd rather watch Aliens vs Predator Requiem than probably Alien 3, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very mean-spirited movie, though. Is
Yes.
Requiem?
Yes.
It's a very mean-spirited movie.
It's mean-spirited and like prurient with it. I mean, you can get away with mean-spirited. Mean-spirited cinema can be great. It can be really good, you know. For me, it's prurient though. It's like it's infantile or rather adolescent with its mean-spiritedness. It's only there to just sort of like prod and just say, "Oh, I'm so mean-spirited, I am," and it's like, "Oh,
It's a 90s comic, a bad one.
a bad one." Yeah.
And Resurrection's not very good, and I would equate it more to like if you like Deep Blue Sea, you'll like Resurrection, and that's
I think
about
that's a
it.
good
And I like
analogy,
Deep Blue Sea, so that's fine.
Yeah, Deep Blue Sea
I was
is
going to
hilarious.
say,
It's great
no,
fun.
no. I will not be having the beautiful name of Deep Blue Sea besmirched. Deep Blue Sea is the greatest shark film starring a rapper ever made.
It's a lot of fun. It's very silly. But
Yeah,
it
it's a
knows
bad
it's
film,
silly,
but
right?
I enjoy it.
And it knows it is. I mean, what I get from Deep Blue Sea is it's very aware of itself. You know, it doesn't give a
Yeah,
shit really.
it's just a monster film. They're not trying to do anything profound.
They're not really trying to do it, and in that they succeed really well, right? Because they're not trying to do anything that significant with it, which is fun.
Yeah, it's a punk rock flick. You're there to have a good time and spend the time on the way home singing that your head is a shark's fin.
Yeah, sometimes you can get away with that. You really can. I mean, like, it's not like, say, people defend, like, Revenge of the Fallen on that basis. Oh, it's just this, it's just that. No, Revenge of the Fallen is the anti-cinema. You know.
Well, I mean, if we're just going on what you find fun, you can't really say, well, you can't like it because I don't.
No,
find
no,
fun.
I'm
It's
not
like,
saying
okay,
that
well,
you can't like
no,
it. I'm saying
but
that it's
there is that defense that people say, and it's like, well, okay.
Well, fine. I mean,
fine.
you can't say anything against that because that's subjective.
No,
but in terms
exactly.
of objective, in terms of the technical elements,
Yeah, if they say it's a good movie, I'd be like,
then
no,
we're
it's
going to
not
have
a good movie.
arguments because it's not a good movie.
It's not a good film.
It is in terms of the technical elements, the anti-cinema.
Yeah.
It is how you don't make a film. That's why it should actually be studied. You know, things like Revenge of the Fallen should actually be studied in film classes because this is how you don't do it.
I mean, you can show most of Michael Bay's movies and say the
That's
same
true.
thing. I'd
The
argue. I
vast
mean,
majority,
the Revenge of the Fallen's like the zenith.
Yeah, I would say so. In fact, Dark of the Moon is actually one of the other of the three films that I've walked out of.
Yeah, well, that one's just, like I think Revenge of the Fallen's more insulting. But I think Dark of the Moon's just dull.
Yeah,
very
it is.
boring.
It's insulting and dull, isn't it? You know,
And it's so long. You sit there for hours and days go by.
Which
And
is
it's
the
like-
one that me and you went to see, Andy, where I just went off at the end of it and said, I'm never watching another one of these fucking movies ever again.
That might have been Dark of the Moon, or it was the fourth one.
For me, it was Dark of the Moon. I haven't seen any of them since. I promised myself, you know, it was like, you know what? I don't hate myself enough for this.
Bumblebee's better, but it kind of slumps into the mediocrity.
Yeah.
It's not like insultingly bad, but I know Mikey likes it a lot more than I do, but I just kind of look at it and go, it's fine. It's better. But it's not significantly better, I find.
I think that might be it. These films are not made for me.
I don't know who they're made for. They're made for people who Hollywood thinks are stupid, I think, generally speaking. At least the before the Bumblebee movie was. And what looks like Rise to the Beast as well. Looks like it's made for people who Hollywood assume are idiots.
Yeah.
But,
I just can't be bothered. You know, there's so much good stuff out there. There's so much good stuff happening in cinema that I'd rather just go there. You know, I'd rather go and watch something that's, even if it's flawed, that's interesting, that's trying to do something, and is not talking down to me. That's the big thing for me when it comes to media and cinema. I hate condescending media. You know, that talks to you like you are a child or talks to you like you are a fucking idiot. I'm kind of hypersensitive to that, which is why I react very badly to it when it does that.
But
I mean, Prometheus was a good example of that, actually. Prometheus was an
so
excellent
pretentious.
example of that. Yeah,
Gosh, yeah,
exactly.
way up
And
its
it's,
own arse.
you know, I mean, sometimes you've got to really stop with that term, with pretentious, because it's badly used on the internet a lot.
it can be,
But
yeah.
Prometheus, I think you've got it absolutely spot on. It is the very definition of pretension, in the sense that it pretends to talk about profound ideas when in fact it doesn't. It wants the veneer of it. Do you know what Prometheus is? I may have said this before, and I probably have many times on podcasts, but Prometheus is that person who, when you go to their house, has on their coffee table copies of Kierkegaard and Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, but has never read any of them.
Yeah, 100%.
I wouldn't understand them if they did. They just want you to think that they're, I'm an intellectual, me.
I think they'll have read the back, the synopsis online, or maybe the Wikipedia page.
That's it. Exactly that. They'll never actually read them. That's what Prometheus is. And this is actually a sickness in cinema at the moment, and in a lot of popular media, where it will insist that it's clever to you. It will shriek in your face, I'm so clever, and it's not. It's brainless. Sherlock, that fucking Stephen Moffat Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. It does that.
God.
I forgot that existed.
It shrieks in its audience face. It grabs its audience and shrieks in their face, I'm clever. But it's not.
No, I was thinking that you meant the Robert Downey Jr. movie.
No.
I completely forgot about the TV series as well.
Yeah, I mean, the Robert Downey Jr. films, I think, are silly. I think they're just silly, and they kind of get away with it in that regard. But that show, it grates on me in profound ways, because it really wants you to think that it's being phenomenally smart and intricate, when in fact it is brain dead for the most part.
Well, it's something I've said for a long time, that the best modern adaptation of Sherlock Holmes is House.
Yeah,
if you remember that TV
something
series.
like House. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, House is Sherlock Holmes. He's House Holmes. His best friend's Wilson Watson. It's the one-to-one veneer that you can put over it is incredibly apparent.
Yeah.
It's just that he's a medical investigator rather than a criminal investigator. And honestly, because everything else is there, the addiction, the hatred of other people, and the inability to learn anything that isn't anything to do with what he needs to know at that time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big element of the original Sherlock Holmes in the stories. I mean, isn't it established at one point that he doesn't actually know that the Earth goes around the sun?
Correct.
There's a conversation he has with Watson, and Watson is appalled that he doesn't know, and he's like, well, why would I need to know that?
Yeah, it has absolutely no bearing on my work.
Yeah.
Me and my brother have this wonderful little thing. I can't remember which story it's in, but we occasionally just shout to each other, "What, Watson? I don't believe in the moon!" Because there is a little bit about how he doesn't truly understand how the moon works, because it's got nothing to do with criminal investigation. It's just the best thing in the world. It's like,
wait, is he a flat earther?
Wait, he's more of a no-mooner than a flat earther.
Oh my god, but it's right there.
Yeah, right.
What do you think the big round white thing is in the sky at night?
Yeah.
It's just a big old light, I don't care. I'm Sherlock Holmes. Watson, away! Just jumps on Watson's back.
There's a brilliant clip floating around there. It's of Professor Brian Cox, and he's talking about the Big Bang. And he has this habit of doing, he's so good at explaining really big, complex ideas. And he talks about how you can actually see the Big Bang, or rather you can see why the Big Bang is an absolute certainty. You can actually see the effects of it rippling out into reality, into the universe. And he gets quite annoyed towards the end of when he's talking. He says, that's why you can't say it didn't happen, or you don't believe in it, because we can fucking see it.
I mean, people can say they don't believe in it, but it's one of those things where it's like, you don't believe in water? It's there.
They can say
okay,
what they like, but it's not. You can't be taken seriously. I mean, that's the point. You can't be taken seriously. You don't have a place at the table. If you're.
You've just reminded me of a few years back when I tried to start off the Mountain Deniers, where we were all going to deny that mountains existed.
Oh, okay.
He's like the birds don't exist people.
Yeah. I wanted to say.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because they believe the birds are robots, don't they? Or
but
like
birds are robots, and Australia doesn't exist.
Parody. That started
Yeah.
as a parody, but I do believe it has grown into something, an actual conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
That's a great conspiracy theory.
I mean, it's a brilliant one. It is. You
That's
could play with that. You could have fun with that, I think.
That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to see if I could get a foothold in conspiracy theories by having mountain deniers and see how far it would go.
You could, given that you've got like the Nibiru reptilian people out there, you could. I am of the opinion that you could make a conspiracy out of anything.
Yep.
It doesn't. There is no bottom of the barrel for absurdity.
There is a bottom of the barrel, and that is on the Flat Earth Society's website, where it says the sentence: "The Flat Earth Society's website. The Flat Earth Society has members all around the globe." Anyhow, should we get off the flat hollow Earth, which is my personal favourite conspiracy theory, that the Earth is both flat and hollow.
Flat and hollow.
Flat and hollow, yeah. Where else did the dinosaurs go? You know, think about it. The idea of an entire species just vanishing overnight? Pah!
They didn't vanish, they died.
They didn't vanish, and it wasn't overnight. It was a very prolonged period.
I know there's a Mikey screaming somewhere and he doesn't know why.
Absolutely. I heard him just perk up then, you know?
Well, one of my favourite hobbies in the world is making the Irish cry. So, let's actually get on to some hobby.
You are English, aren't you, Adam? That's
true, yeah. Well, that's depending on who you speak to.
Culturally and historically, it's kind of what we do, isn't it?
Considering my birth certificate, no matter how you look at it, it's not good. I'm either English or South African. So, oh dear. Yeah, not good at all. Andy, I'm going to put the butterfly net over your head and say, have you done any hobby in the last few weeks?
Since how long has it been since the last time we recorded? Not that long.
2 weeks.
I thought it's only been 2 weeks.
That's it.
Two and a bit, maybe. 2 and a bit.
Yeah, not really. Since I finished making my background and wall, I've been waiting to find time to do some filming for a YouTube video, and I've managed to get some filming done. But in terms of like painting or whatever, it's still a bit too cold.
The backgrounds look great, by the way, Andy. They look amazing.
Thank you.
They do.
Cheers.
They look great.
It's not bad for, basically just using 2 giant bits of polystyrene which were just lying around the house. And it's better than just sending them to the garbage tip. I would have preferred to use insulation foam because that's way better to use. But it's what I had around the house, so it cost me nothing to use it.
Yeah,
effectively.
I really like it. I think it's. I'm looking forward to seeing how the videos come out.
Yeah, same.
How are you liking it?
If it's anything like the photographs, they're going to be great.
I'm using the same lights that I used back in day, so they're just like 2 white light bulbs or something on like these crappy desk lamps that you can get for like £5.
Yeah,
it's like just 2 of them.
Okay,
right.
It's a fucking nightmare during like summertime because they fart out heat like crazy.
Oh,
so
God.
back in the day, like when I was doing them frequently during summer, I was just like sweating my boobs off.
Jeez.
It was a nightmare. So at some point I should like invest in some LED ones, so then it's not quite as heat producing, at least for summertime. It's fine now because it's freezing. It's pretty cold. So and I'm recording at night, so it's very cold as well.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned it, actually. It just popped into my mind. So I've been working through my Caradron Overlords, trying to get them all finished and painted, right? What I've been doing is when I finish one of the big airships, I put it on the windowsill.
Yeah.
Okay? I've got a little system here where something big's finished, it goes on the windowsill, so it's out the way, so I can see how much I've still got to go. Right?
Yeah.
Every morning, between the hours of 7 o'clock and 10 o'clock, the heating gets put on, then comes off. And then between the hours of 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, heat comes back on again. Because they're on the windowsill, they're right above the radiator.
Oh, no.
Right? I now have some droopy harpoons.
Oh, no.
So I'm gonna
your radiators must be farting out heat.
I was going to say.
They are in this room.
No.
The office radiators are absolutely evil. They are.
No.
Do you have like the adjuster things on your radiator so you can turn them down and turn them up?
They would normally. Well, they work on every other radiator except the one in this room.
Oh,
of course.
So they're just perpetual like blast furnace.
Yeah. I can't.
Oh wow.
I have to turn the heating off before I come in here to do anything. Which is why I've just had to re-thermite my PC.
Oh God!
So worked out why the thermal paste had vanished. It's like, oh dear. I don't think I told you guys, did I, that the PC, when I was putting a video together, it was running at 113 degrees. It's like, uh-oh, that's not good.
Then became its own radiator, right? So it was producing heat as well.
Yeah, it was basically like I was running a Dyson sphere in the fucking office.
Interesting.
Oh God, I've created self-perpetual energy. Help me!
Was it like that sequence from like Spider-Man 2, with Doc Ock and his weird perpetual energy thing, his contained sun.
Unfortunately, I didn't have big octopus arms. I just had bits of plastic stick to me, melting away. Help me! At the end of RoboCop, kill me!
Oh God, everyone remembers that sequence for some reason from RoboCop. The Melty Man.
It's just right in your brain, isn't it?
It's horrible. That's why it's vile. In a film not short on vile sequences, by the way.
Mm-hmm. RoboCop, the funnest family film you'll ever have.
Oh, RoboCop is genius. Such a good film.
I even like RoboCop 2. RoboCop 3, however, is...
Do not tell my colleague Kit Power about that. Do not tell him that. You must have seen his podcast, where he basically interviews people from the horror writing community, and every single one of them, of us rather, he makes watch RoboCop, and we do commentaries on it. So he's done it about 20 times, and it's brilliant. It's so much fun. And the question he always starts the podcast with is, so tell me why you think RoboCop is the greatest film ever made.
I'm just they're just on Twitter now at Kid Power. I prefer
do not
RoboCop
do that.
2.
Well, at least he's not saying 3, or any of the TV movies. Or live action show.
What's even better is that the auto-corrected to Robot Cop 2, so I'm going to keep it as that.
Robot Cop.
That sounds like...
What about RoboCod, with James Pond?
Oh, God, now that's actually good.
Yeah. Well, one's not. Two and 3 are.
Yeah, 2 and 3 are great games.
One not so much.
One is odd and interesting, but not good necessarily.
One's got the nightmarish backgrounds, which may give you epilepsy.
Yes, that's absolutely the case.
That's why I don't like 1, because it's just the backgrounds are just nonsensical, like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But
it's an entire level of the special stage from Sonic 1.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. 2 is genius, though.
He's great, yeah. And 3's a little bit of a departure, but it's got its own charm.
It's okay. It's a little bit more sort of console-oriented than the others, I feel, but it's still pretty good.
I like the idea of like rats going to the moon because it's made out of cheese.
It's made out of cheese, yeah, obviously.
And, yeah, it's like, and you got to go and get the green cheese.
Mm-hmm. I loved the penguin promotion in RoboCod in James Pond. In fact, response to the penguin.
That was great.
That's brilliant.
So were those adverts in the Sonic comic back in the day?
They were.
They must have been.
They were.
I'm sure they must. They must have been at some point.
Oh, they were.
Weirdly enough, that you mentioned STC. So me and Joseph are going through STC at an issue at a time.
Nice.
Where are you up to?
We are just about to enter the Sonic Terminator. We've got 2 issues.
What else happens in that issue?
Not a huge amount, to be honest.
Well, I mean, like, what are the other, what are the not Sonic things in it?
Oh, right. So, Streets of Rage has just started, but I've been skipping that.
Just started?
Yes.
Damn.
Yeah. You might want to skip that one with Joseph. That's surprisingly adult.
Do you know who wrote it?
Yeah,
it's
Mark fucking Miller.
Mark Miller, yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, that's neat.
Yeah. The guy who wrote the line without ever stopping to think this is a bad idea. Angrier Hulk get, hornier Hulk get. And, of course, Hulk want Freddie Prinze Jr.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, have you gone back and reread the Streets of Rage comics, Adam, first?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, many a time.
It's surprising, isn't it? It's really quite surprising. They don't belong in that comic.
No. They
do not belong in that comic. They are very, very different from everything else.
Yeah. Well, there's a real sense of the Streets of Fire type of film that takes place in that. And that's not just because of the name. There's a really weird relationship between Streets of Rage and Streets of Fire, which I am not going to get into here because we will be here for hours as I explain what these two things are. But it is like Mark Miller went back to the well to Streets of Fire in order to get that, which in itself inspired the Warriors.
Yes, I was just about to say the Warriors, obviously, And
then, of course, the Warriors becomes a big part of what Streets of Rage is, and a huge part of what Streets of Rage the comic is. And it's a really, really odd beast. I wouldn't say it's bad. I wouldn't probably go as far as to say it's a must-read, but it is a fascinating experience.
It's interesting, isn't it? More than anything.
The artwork was really good for it as well, from what I remember.
Yeah,
it is good. I mean, it's of the same caliber as most of the Kid Chameleon strips, which
they were great.
And Kid Chameleon, I think, is actually the pinnacle of Sonic the Comic non-Sonic strips. Kid Chameleon is incredible, especially where it ends, because just the role reversal of characters. It's just so good and perfect.
Shame it didn't continue, isn't it? I would have loved for it to pick up again. I would have loved for it to pick up.
We're skipping Golden Axe as well.
Yeah, Golden Axe. I mean, Golden Axe has got its moments. It can be quite nasty at times.
Yeah, I think we're just going to read nothing but Sonic strips and Decap Attack.
Yeah, you're pretty safe with the Sonic strips.
What about Marco's Magic Football?
I will end you where you stand.
Yeah. But he plays football, innit? Lads. Turns the coppers to goo.
God almighty.
Fucking sports. Ugh.
Yeah. I remember being
Hey, you say boo sports, but Mutant Football League was a pretty good comic strip.
Actually, it was.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
It was.
I mean, granted, it was mainly a comedy strip, but it was still pretty good.
It was pretty damn good. But Marco's Magic Football, bloody hell.
That one felt like an advertisement more so than anything else.
Yes.
It was just advertising the game.
And also for a bad game as well.
Like I had Marco's Magic Football, didn't enjoy it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know.
It's one of those sort of Euro platformers that was originally on the computers. It was originally on the Amiga and whatnot, and then got.
Oh, was it?
Was
it EA that did it?
Oh my god.
I can't remember who the original producers were. In fact, I think it may have even had a different name when it was on the Amiga, but it was bad. It was bad.
I can't hear the words "on the Amiga" without a little jingle going "on the Amiga." Diddly-loo. Go through my head.
I am gonna nail him down and get him on one of my Strange Playgrounds podcasts at some point, talking about the Amiga, because I think we'll have a lot to discuss.
The Amiga was great.
It's by far
incredible horror games.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Horrorsoft. Do you remember Horrorsoft? Who had
Elvira
Dark as their mascot.
Yep. Mental.
And did 2 Elvira games, which are actually really good.
Well, I mean, you look at stuff like It Came from the Desert, which is just a beautiful, beautiful little homage to B-movies, and it's honestly, it's one of my favourite games of all time. We are so far off topic, it's wonderful.
We are. We've gone completely off piste here, actually. Although, we can very easily bring it back around, because there were Game Workshop games on the Amiga.
On the Amiga!
And we had Space Crusade, of course.
Yep, Space Crusade, Space Hulk, Deathwing. Yep.
Space Hulk as well.
2 Hero Quest games, surprisingly enough, on the Amiga.
Both pretty damn good as well.
I really like Hero Quest 2, Legend of Sorrow. It's
it really was the board game recreated, right? And just with great fidelity, yeah?
Yeah. And,
was it better than the last Steam game that was Hero Quest? Because I heard that was terrible. I heard no one said anything nice about that.
Steam Hero Quest? It must
there's
really bad,
Hero Quest on Steam, yeah.
I'm going to have to look this up. I don't remember this happening. That could just be me being safe.
I'm sure it was bad. No, the one on the Amiga was good. And, I mean, do you remember the weirdness of the Space Crusade game for the Amiga? They took out the Gene Stealers for some reason.
Yep, Soul Suckers.
With Soul Suckers, which were basically the same but had blades for hands.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew why that was. Was that some weird copyright thing or
no
something?
No, right. This gets weird. So, how I understand it is that the name Gene Stealer was classified as being too upsetting and too violent. Compared to fucking Soul Sucker. Yeah,
Oh,
alright.
Soul Sucker's all
Yeah.
right. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
But also, the game developers thought it was too close to Geiger's Alien. Even though, whilst at a base level, yes, but by that point the Gene Stealers had very much become their own thing. So that's why they kind of got replaced. And I think I seem to remember reading as well that one of the people thought, wait, it makes no real sense. You've got all these chaos people walking around, and then you've just got these aliens as well. But you left the orcs and the Gretchen in.
I was going to say the orcs are there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very weird.
It's very, very peculiar.
I adore that version of Space Crusade. Me and my brother played it to death.
It's great. I mean, did you ever manage to kill the fucking dreadnought?
Yes. Yes, we did.
You needed your full squad of Space Marines to take that bastard down, didn't you?
What you did is you had one guy who run up to the door, but don't open it, and the dreadnought would automatically start walking towards the door, and then you have somebody getting in behind it and just flame and melting the fucker to death.
And you needed to do that and it needed to be its rear armor as well, right?
Yes, it did. It did. Because you take it to the face, my God, it's just going to eat you.
Yeah, like one shot, and your Space Marines go.
Yeah,
and leave only their little booties.
The little boot of the smoke.
Yeah. Love it.
Oh man, if I ever had the time to do a Let's Play, I would so happily just stream playing Space Crusade. It would be like so much fun.
I would love to play, and you could play it multiplayer, couldn't you? Because each of you had a different team of Space Marines, right?
Yeah, up to 4 players.
The Ultramarines, the Dark Angels, the Blood Angels, and the Imperial Fists, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
If I remember on, I'm going to put the music as the background.
The Dark Angels were black as well, right?
Yep.
They weren't green back then.
Yep.
Oh, wow. God.
Oh, God.
How weird was that?
I really want to play this now. I want to play Space Crusade on the Amiga.
It's not Hero Quest on Steam, it's Warhammer Quest on Steam.
Oh.
Yeah, that was shit.
That was shocking. Yeah, I remember reading about that.
Yeah, that was really, really bad.
Ripped to bits.
I hated it. Hated it. Yeah, I got it on sale and I asked for my money back.
Yeah, it has mixed reviews.
Yeah,
that's what Steam says at the moment. Mixed, which is pretty bad.
Yeah,
which is probably bad, right?
Yes.
Basically, I paid for someone to shit in a bag and then just clap the bag at me.
Wow.
That's how I felt about that game. It was awful. Absolutely awful.
Did you ever play Space Hulk on the Amiga, Adam?
I did, yes. I played it on the Amiga.
Good.
I played it on the Pentium 1 PC, and I played it on the PS1. So,
wow.
Oh, yeah. And the best one, I will always say, was the Pentium 1 version. It had so much... It had better sound, for a start. And because...
Impossible to play.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah.
Impossible. I mean, it with great fidelity recreated the balls out hardness of the original Space Hulk, right?
Yeah, not the toned down version that came later. It is freaking impossible.
It's punishing, isn't it? It's absolutely grueling.
But it felt so good.
People would complete it though. I mean, there were guides on how to do it, so someone must have done it somewhere. Well, I mean, well done to them.
I love the fact that there's a point where Final Liberation comes out. You've got Space Hulk on PC and PS1, and you've got Shadow of the Horned Rat all on the shelves at the same time. Now, this may seem like a bit of a weird thing considering the amount of games that are out now, but these three games are pretty much as good as they were ever going to get at the time.
They were pretty good, weren't they? I mean, like, the Final Liberation was a real-time strategy based on the Epic system, and pretty good, right?
No, it was turn-based.
It was turn-based, yeah. It was turn-based. But it was absolutely superb, and it had all of that wonderful FMV. Do you remember FMV? When you had live-action people and orc puppets? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember very well, yeah.
I mean, I never liked the series, but peak was Command and Conquer with Tim Curry.
Yeah, of course.
I was never a Command and Conquer guy, but I admit that they had the best FMV people, and they had really good actors in the roles as well.
Oh, God, yeah. Including Ric Flair.
Yeah, Ric Flair was there as well. Yeah.
I kind of liked the real-time strategy stuff a bit later on, like in the early 2000s, when the PC was really becoming the platform, and it basically went into space. So you had stuff like Homeworld and whatnot,
Yeah.
where it was in like proper 3 dimensions, and you had fleets of spaceships and whatnot. That was great. And then real-time strategy just went off a cliff, and it's just really hasn't come back ever.
Like, it's a weird one. StarCraft 2, as far as I understand, is still getting played a lot in like Korea and places like that.
Really good game. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if you like StarCraft, if you want to play it like a high level, is a very rigid. Maybe it's not rigid, but it's a very like difficult game to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's involved, isn't it? You need to know of what you do.
Yeah, there's a build order of what you build, how many you build, etc. etc. I can't do that. I just enjoyed playing the story.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That was fun.
And I mean, the first StarCraft is one of my favorite games of all time. It is just a wonderful, wonderful experience, and it made me feel things, which is not what you expect when you go Warcraft, Warcraft 2, StarCraft. Like, oh, I feel things for these characters. That's not.
And
good.
Warcraft 3.
I think Warcraft 3, which is the pinnacle of the RTS genre, 100%.
And the pinnacle of Blizzard before it decided to kill itself.
Yes.
I would say, because I was never a WoW person.
No, nor me.
Well, WoW I enjoy, but I lose interest real quickly.
Yeah.
For 2 reasons. One, I'm not really that fussed in just watching numbers go up.
Yep.
In fact, if I wanted to do that, I would just sit here with Audacity and just watch as we hit 48 minutes, 47 seconds, and 984. Yeah, it's not overly interesting. I want story. I want to be involved. The other thing that I hated about WoW is you are the special hero, just like everybody else.
All the 100 million people playing the game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing for me. It's this sort of isolated curmudgeon in me. I don't want to play with other people. That's what video games are for.
I enjoyed doing that because we did have our own little guild, and I did like weekly quests where if you could find where I'd hidden something, you won gold, or we played hide and seek all the way through Ashvale and places like that. Yeah, that was good fun. I enjoyed that, but that is more to do with us finding things to do inside the game rather than the game itself.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I will admit I did have a soft spot for Diablo 2 back in the day. I used to like Diablo quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I used to play with other people, actually. I used to enjoy the dungeon delving element of it, And I know they've remastered it recently, but Blizzard is not getting a fucking penny from me, I can tell you.
Oh, Christ, no.
In its current condition. I would love to play it again. I would love to. I really enjoyed Diablo 2. I loved having my necromancer who could slow the PC to almost a stop by the amount of skeletons he could raise. Because that's the way I used to do it. Just raise an army of skeletons and then just let them do all the hard work.
Oh, man, Diablo. I loved the first Diablo. Absolutely adored it. And there's something, even though it looks really old and janky and clanky now, there's something about its murky design that I just adore.
The gameplay's great. The gameplay's really good. It's because it's really repetitive, and it's an RPG with the RPG elements removed. So it's just the combat. There's just nothing else to it, and that is actually really fun. It's got a kind of like purity to it. When it moved on to Diablo 2, it's pretty much the same, but just a little bit more enhanced. But the cut sequences, like you were talking about the FMV in Diablo 2 is amazing. It's amazing. It stands up so well. And it's actually a pretty good story, if you're bothered about it, if you really give a shit about it, which you don't have to be in Diablo at all. It's not bad.
Well, that's the thing. Blizzard, for about 10 years there, were at the very pinnacle of FMV. They pushed what FMV could do in games. You just look at what they managed to do with Warcraft 3. I mean, freaking hell, the Arthur sequence in Warcraft 3, the "What are you doing, my son? Succeeding you, father," it's beautiful because everything on the screen, everything in the frame tells the story of what's going on. It's not just cool guy turns up and goes on a slaughter rampage. it's incredible, absolutely incredible. And I remember Rob, when I was introducing him to Warcraft 3, he would just watch the FMVs and just want to cry because it's like.
But this is the fun thing, isn't it? You can with a lot of those old Blizzard games. You can go and watch the FMVs. Like, you know, when people have put like the compilations together on YouTube.
Oh yeah.
And they run like little films. They really do have narrative and they have structure, and they're often told in very interesting ways. I mean, like the story of Diablo 2 is that the hero from the original Diablo, whoever they were, gets possessed by the essence of Diablo. And it's told from the perspective of a man named Marius, who becomes his confidant and follows him across the world as he's trying to unlock his brothers, the other sort of like archdemons of hell. And it's really good. It's actually really damn good. And you know, I would love to play it again. I just won't. You know, I won't go near it. I would love to play it again, but no, it's not going to happen.
Oh, if you want to play it and you don't want to give Blizzard any money, may I recommend Good Old Games?
Yeah, it's
GOG.com. It's
not a bad idea.
Blizzard don't get any money out of it, you know. It'll just go straight to GOG.
Yeah, not a bad idea. But even then, I don't want to like promote. You know, I don't want to go anywhere near them, to be honest. Which is a shame. It is a shame because I think Diablo 2 is awesome.
I mean,
a lot of hours, sort of like at university, when I probably should have been studying. You know, clicking obsessively on that mouse button.
Did either of you guys play the Baldur's Gate game on the PS2?
No, I never
Dark Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my Baldur's. That was my Diablo.
It was great.
Is it?
I mean, it's Baldur's Gate. It's Diablo style.
Yeah.
So it just plays like one of them. You get to pick from 3 dudes: a human, a dwarf, and an elf, and you can play co-op, and that was pretty fun, especially on a console.
That's interesting. I mean, I played the original Baldur's Gates, obviously both of them, and just freaking I mean, as D&D games go, they're still like the pinnacle. They're just,
absolutely.
That story is amazing. I mean, it's hard to beat, isn't it? It's very hard to beat that story. The Baalspawn saga.
I mean, it's what happens when you just take a existing campaign, an existing system, and you just digitalize it. And that's what they did, and they did it perfectly.
Yeah, it works very well, and just amazing voice acting throughout. I mean, you've got David Warner as the bad guy, as Irenicus. Just wonderful, right?
I was so recently I bought the first season of the New Adventures of Superman. Yeah, the old Dean Cain and Lois and Terry Hatcher as Lois Lane ones, right? Just because they were on sale on Amazon. I really just wanted to watch something that I didn't have to get involved with, but would bring me joy. And that Superman series just makes me happy. It's silly, it's goofy, and you really don't have to get invested with anything. And I totally forgot that Tony J plays Lex Luthor's butler.
Oh, really?
Does he?
He does, and he just looms onto the screen. I'm like, fucking hell, it's Tony J!
Tony J, yeah, legend.
And it's like,
Absolute
man.
legend.
And I'd be just like,
That
what is it with
voice.
you and Tony J? It's just listen to him. He's got a voice like sex butter.
I was going to say that voice.
It was amazing.
It is just out there, isn't it? It's on another level, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it upsets me that nowhere is there anything of Tony J and Tim Curry voicing off against each other, which is just the very idea of that. Just it does.
That's kind of like. It is like an oral orgasm, isn't it? That is just insane.
But now you've added David Warner to the mix as well, so it's like
right.
Some kind of like adaptation of Mountains of Madness with David Warner, Tony J, and Tim Curry.
Deary me, wow.
That would be perfect. Yes.
That would be incredible.
Or a full-length Mighty Max film.
Not, I mean, with franchises, coming back the way they do. I mean, Mighty Max would make a great like Netflix series these days, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
I would love to see it come back in that format.
It's one of those things. I don't understand why no one's had another go at Mighty Max. I know Bluebird went under and stuff like that, but Polly Pocket's back, so why is Mighty Max not having another shot? And considering that Mighty Max's ending is one of storytelling cycles, of mythological cycles.
It's really good. I mean, it's a great cartoon. I love the way it's kind of like a little horror show for kids.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. Every episode is a little sort of homage to science fiction, to horror films of yore, and it often gets quite nasty.
Oh, yeah. The invasion of the evil brain-sucking aliens from outer space episode, yeah.
It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Actually, taking people's brains out.
People die in that show. It's actually quite surprising. Yeah. People actually die in that show. There's sometimes a little bit of blood, there's a little bit of violence and whatnot. And it's really good. And of course, you've got Tim Curry as Skullmaster, just loving being this arch villain.
Tim Curry as Skullmaster, Tony J as Virgil. So, as I say, all you need now is David Warner in there as someone, and problem solved.
Yeah. I mean, I loved the slightly off-piste take that they always had on like the toys as well.
Yeah.
They always took them in interesting directions.
I also like the fact that there is an episode in there where the big bad hero, like Norman, gets absolutely petrified by his childhood bully.
Yeah, he's terrified.
I mean, granted, it's a bit more than that because Spike does actually want to kill him with his father's axe.
Oh, there's that awful sequence at the beginning where Spike falls over and like the twigs go through his face.
Yeah. Norman!
Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome episode that is. I had the toy of that one, the little horror head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what we had. We had the spider, the scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we had the mummy one. That was a snake.
Yeah, the snake.
That was one of the original ones. That was one of the very first. I had most of them. I really loved Mighty Max. I used to get them for like my birthdays and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I had the vast majority. My brother had Skull Mountain.
Oh.
Yeah, with weird not Skullmaster, the original version of Skullmaster, where he's a little wizard, an orange legs, and a second piece which was grey.
That's
just
right.
Laid on over the top.
Very different from how he would become.
Very
later
different.
On.
Did you have the Dragon Island one, which was the one that followed?
I had
where it actually had Skull. Oh, did you have the Skullmaster base, which was his giant head?
No, that was towards the end, wasn't it? And no, we didn't have that one, unfortunately. We had Magus, the big lava statue.
Oh, he was so good.
We had we didn't have many of the big ones, but like the things like the Doom Zones, the horror heads. We had the vast majority of them. My favorite, and it's always been my favorite, is the hand. It's like it's severed zombie hand, and it's gross. It's got like bits of bone jutting out of it and like gore, and it's like it's a George A. Romero zombie setting inside. It's utterly brilliant, proper horror stuff, But yeah, I loved that cartoon. Okay, the protagonist is kind of like the archetypal 90s kid, and yeah, he's an annoying little shit.
Yeah, it's Rob Paulson's voice, yeah.
But it's still a good show.
It's a great show. Yeah.
It is. And as I said, the final three-parter of Mighty Max is some of the best cartoon you'll see of that era. It's
good.
It's insanely good.
Well, it's one of the very few cartoons of the era that actually has a proper ending, right?
Yeah. Well, it has an ending that's also the beginning. It's It's mental that they tie it together. That the cat bearer's quest never ends. It's like Quantum Leap.
It's a paradox, right? I kind of like it. I think it's fun, and I like the fact that the show kind of never, ever, ever sort of comments upon the absurdity of the cosmic cap.
No,
because it is silly. It's really fucking silly.
It just is. It just works. You just run with it.
It's just part of the. It's just part of the mythos, right? And I kind of love that. I kind of love it.
That's probably why it couldn't exist today, because they'd have to try and justify it, or they'd be really cynical about it. They'd be like, it's stupid. They'd actively point out how silly it is.
Yes, that might be a problem. Yeah. Although, I mean, as I say, I would. There are certain like cartoon creators I would love to see have a go at it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, just to update it a little bit. Maybe remove the '90s-ness of Max himself because it is a little bit much.
But as long as the theme tune still sounds like a thrash metal band falling down the stairs, I'm in. I think I've decided that I'm not even going to bother trying to get on topic this episode. This is too much fun.
Talk about random shit for the entire episode.
Yeah, this is a walk it in episode. I've decided. Just whatever. Yeah, fuck it.
Whatever goes, right?
Yeah,
Whatever goes.
There's nothing going on. Let's just talk
apparently
shit.
not. Apparently, there's nothing going on in Warhammer 40k, for example. It's not like 9th edition is sort of edging towards its end.
No, nothing like that at all. There's no way in hell that the current campaign books are basically 40k Broken Realms, and they are slowly but surely creating the new status quo and introducing a Harud.
And also doing stuff that is, I mean, those of you who've read Arcs of Omen Angron know what happens at the end of that book. And it's, it's like, wow, okay, how is the Imperium going to get out of this? Don't really know. And we haven't even seen what Vashtor and Abaddon are actually up to yet.
No, it's only been hinted, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we know that they're gathering pieces of something from all of these war zones that they're initiating, hidden within like the hearts of worlds. There are these items, these artifacts that are parts of something, and Vashtor knows how to put them together to fashion them into something.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know what it does. We don't know what it means. But the effort of getting them is literally ripping the galaxy apart. And causing again, yes. I mean, I almost want to spoil it, but I won't. What happens at the end of Arcs of Omen and Angron? I mean, those of you who know, and it's like, wow. All I will say is this: Khorne actually turns up at one point.
Oh well, that's your fucked, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I will say about Arcs of Omen and Angron, the writing. For a campaign book, the writing in this book is astoundingly good. It's like that, it does feel like they maybe got one of the Black Library writers to come in and write this one.
Oh, it'd be nice to know who did it.
It would be nice to know who did it, because it's good. It's genuinely good. Angron's characterization is fantastic in this. It is absolutely fantastic. In fact, all of the characters are wonderful. The war zone itself, a world called Malak Bale, which is it's a world where there is this, at the heart of it, there is this engine from the Dark Age of technology called hang on, I can't remember what it's called, the Choral engine, and it's effectively a mini Golden Throne. It's like the prototype of the Golden Throne. It's massive. It fills the core of the planet. And it's fed psychers, just like the Emperor is. And it creates a version of the Astronomicon. It kind of purifies the psychic energy that it takes in and pulses it out into the universe. So it creates a kind of synthetic Astronomicon. And it also has the effect of driving back the influence of the warp wherever it touches, but it also irritates Angron. Angron can feel it in his head, so of course he basically he speeds towards it, drawing all of the forces of Khorne behind him, and he assaults the world, and it's incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. Angron himself is so well characterized in this book. He is so utterly brilliant in this book. I can't believe that they've managed to take who ostensibly could be the most simplistic and kind of dull of the Demon Primarchs and have turned him into possibly the most complex, the most conflicted, the most psychologically interesting of all of them. It's brilliant stuff. It's brilliant stuff. I mean, I just hope, my sincere hope is that they land the ending of this.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to land the ending. It's building towards something big. It's got to be big. It's got to be like, Cicatrix Maledictum big.
Yeah. It's one of those things like Broken Realms. If everybody remembers, I sang the praises of Broken Realms left, right, and centre, but the ending did not land.
Nope.
At all, and it was a massive shame. So it'd be nice to see that this one does.
I hope so.
It's a difficult one to do, is it? Because you want to be able to have enough up in the air to keep going, so people can do things with it.
Yes,
but also you want to have a definite end to this cycle of campaigns.
Yeah, and also to this phase of the 40k universe. I mean, let's do something different now. Let's close it off. Let's create a new status quo. I mean, there are rumors out there. Obviously, there are always rumors out there, but one of the ones that's very consistent is at the end of this campaign, the Lion is coming back.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, really, they need it. The Imperium needs it now because we've got 3 traitor Primarchs, well, technically 4, because we know, even though there's not a model of him, Fulgrim is out there doing stuff as well.
Yeah. Fucking Fulgrim, like it.
Yeah. He's
still isn't even out.
Yeah, still doing stuff. And we've just got Robotay on his own. Which is not ideal, really.
Not from a narrative perspective, because with 3 or 4 demon Primarchs, they can just win realistically.
Technically, yes. Especially considering that, you've got them being very successful as well. It seems like everything the demon Primarchs do, they actually succeed at. So you've got, Magnus's war against Fenris, which brought Sorciarius back into the material universe, which is now very close to Terra. Angron in this book is pretty damn successful, it has to be said. Mortarion, okay, he was banished, but he managed to basically poison the entirety of the Ultramar system whilst he was doing it. They seem to do rather well, the Demon Primarchs.
Well, if you're just normal Space Marines, what do you do against the Demon Primarch?
What do you do? That's especially Angron, who can't be banished. That's another thing they make a big muchness of in this book. He's blasted to atoms at points, and he just reforms. His rage is such that, I mean, no other Demon Primarch could have gotten close to the Choral engine, because it's like the Emperor's energies, yeah. It's like the Astronomicon. It's antithetical to demonic energy, but Angron manages it. And it's because of his rage. It's because it sustains him, right? It's so cool. It's such a brilliant thing. And that's also in the game now, of course. I mean, we've got Codex World Eaters out now. This is really interesting, actually. I mean, this feels like you can tell that this is edging towards the end of Ninth Ed, because this feels like what the 10th Ed codices are going to be more like, which is way more refined than the Ninth Ed.
In terms of what?
Well, in terms of the options more than anything. It's not as confusing. And also there's just greater internal balance. There's much greater internal balance. So the thing with this army list is that it's very, very refined. It's very easy to use. Everything is set out for you in a very easy to use way, and nothing is redundant. You've only got 1 page of stratagems, you've got 3 relics, 3 warlord traits, your legion trait, and that's it. You've got 1 alternative army style, which is sort of like an old school demonkin army called the Disciples of the Red Angel, which allows you to mix World Eaters and Khorne Demons in a single army list.
Okay.
And that's pretty good. That's pretty fun. But that's it. That's it. It's very, very easy to use, and everything has a place in the army. It's not like, say, I mean, take my favorite army, the Thousand Sons, for example. Now, that codex is amazing. That's one of my favorite codices ever created. But there's no doubting that it has internal balance issues, right? So if you're playing in any way competitively, you're only going to go for 1 or 2 of the cults of the Thousand Sons. You're going to go for the Cult of Time or the Cult of Duplicity. You're not going to bother with any of the others, because even though they're interesting and they're fun, they don't have as much utility. That's the truth of the matter. This does away with that. It does away with that because there's a reason to take everything, which is the way it should be.
It's a good business strategy as well, because if it's useful to take everything, then you should probably own everything.
Exactly that.
At least have at least one copy of it. If you basically make some of your units redundant and worthless, then why would
Then
anybody buy them?
why would people buy them? Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly that. I mean, this. But yeah, I mean, if this is the way 10th ed is going to go, then that's a good move, because I mean, I've said it before. 9th ed is like my favorite version of the game thus far. I think it has the best codices and army lists that have been released. The way the game plays is great fun, but it does suffer from the problem of having like multiple various different versions of the army lists all over the place, with like FAQs over here, and you've got the new restrictions and options coming through the campaign books, and so you have to have like a a flow chart in order to understand what your army can do and can take.
Yeah.
And this does away with that. It's all here, and it's all very clear. It's all set out really well, and there's none of this nonsense like, oh, pay 1 CP for this stratagem to get this extra warlord trait. No, you've got one warlord who has the warlord trait, and they can take a relic, and that's it. That's it. So much better. So much better, so much easier to organize. And I tell you what, these guys are going to feature competitively. There's no doubt. They hit like a fucking tank, these guys, when they're played well. When they're played well. They play unlike anything else in 40k. Certainly in 9th ed. I mean, the whole thing in 9th ed is taking objectives. That's how you win the game, right? They're shit at that. They're terrible at taking objectives. They're terrible at camping on objectives. They're not for that. What they're good at is tabling the opponent. And when you table the opponent, objectives don't matter because you automatically win. That's what they're for. That's what they're for. You don't really worry about the mission parameters when you're playing World Eaters. You worry about wiping the enemy out. And in that
Kill them
regard,
all. Nothing else. Don't worry about anything else. You're good.
That's exactly it. And the new blood tithe system, which is effectively every time an enemy unit is destroyed and any time a friendly unit is destroyed, you get a blood tithe point. And that escalates depending on the type of unit. So if a character, monster, or vehicle is killed, you get an additional blood tithe point. And if a titanic unit is destroyed, then you get an additional point on top of that. And then you can spend those blood tithe points on different abilities that last the entire game and that are army wide. They benefit every unit in the army. So psychologically, it's essentially the psychology of the blood god. It's corn cares not from whence the blood flows, and that's how you play them. As your units are getting wiped out, your army's getting stronger. It's becoming more elite and more elite and more elite until, by the latter phases, they are almost unstoppable. It's a brilliant psychological way of getting over certain innate problems of the World Eaters, especially Ninth Ed, where there's a lot of very shooty armies that can wipe out units every shooting phase. You don't really
like it as a way of sorting out the World Eaters, making them into, getting the narrative and the on-game experience, the on-table experience to fit. Because it's something that I've noticed a lot recently. I was looking at the Kharadron Overlords battle tome earlier today, and the way that they've done a lot of stuff is that they've gone, right, this is how they work in the narrative. This is how they work in the fiction. Let's find ways to get that onto the table.
Exactly.
And one of the ways they've done that is that they've turned the frigates from personnel carriers, which is what they're always used for, into flying battering rams.
Exactly, which is what they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. The Argonauts, the guys with the big balloons that float around, they can now get themselves out of combat by throwing grenades.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
right.
Brilliant. Yeah,
makes
it's and it's beautiful to see that kind of design, aesthetic, what's baked into these guys in the stories. Right, let's get that on the table.
Yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, you've obviously heard about what the big blood tithe option is, which is you pay 6 points and you can just resurrect Angron,
Yeah.
and you can keep doing it. He's effectively immortal. It's pretty incredible. It makes him an incredible utility. I mean, the thing with Angron is that he is really good at what he does. There's hardly anything in the game as useful at what he does, but what he does is narrow.
Yeah.
He's not like, say, Magnus. If you're using Magnus and Angron in the same way, you're not playing them right.
Yeah.
Magnus is the Swiss Army knife. Because he has access to all of the psychic powers in the Thousand Suns Codex, you can use him in various different battlefield roles. Angron does one thing, and that is he wipes out whatever you chuck him at.
Yeah.
Anything he gets into combat with is going to die. Robert, Magnus, Mortarion, Swarm Lords, Titans, Abaddon, they're going to die. They're going to die. One-on-one, they're going to die.
I really now want to see what an Abaddon versus Angron would look like.
It's interesting. I mean,
I'm intrigued.
Without luck, and I mean a lot of luck, Abaddon's going down. Without a lot of luck. Magnus has a chance because of his psychic powers. He can do things like turn off Angron's invulnerable save, which makes him a bit more vulnerable. But here's the thing. Magnus is going to kill him once. They're going to pay the blood tithe to bring him back, and then he's going to kill Magnus.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right? He also has one of the best auras in the game. One of the best auras, which is the Red Angel aura. While an enemy unit with the objective security ability is within 6 inches of this warlord, it loses the ability. So your opponents can't claim objectives when he's around. He's a bitch. He's a really nasty piece of work.
Oh dear God.
Yeah, he's a really nasty piece of work. Potentially, he can chuck out like 40 odd attacks per turn in close combat.
What?
Yep. Potential 40 attacks per turn. Yeah, whatever he touches dies, effectively. I mean, you can take him down, and I've seen it done. You can swamp him. Swamp him with lots of little units, then he finds it very difficult to get out. Poxwalkers and things like that are good against him. Anything that can keep him busy.
Yeah.
Shoot him, obviously. Shoot the hell out of him.
I was going to say, the Tau seem to have a good...
Yes. Tau are good against him. Drukhari are good against him. Eldari are good against him. Any of the big shooty armies, really. Astra Militaria can blast him off the table. But he will be back.
That's the scary part, yeah.
He'll be back. And when he comes back, he deep strikes.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
I know, right? I know. He like appears in like a black comet and just descends onto the tabletop. Yeah, so he's a bad piece of work, is Angron. Everything else has just had a massive glow up. I mean, Khan is a bitch now. He always was, but he's a really nasty piece of work now. He's got 10 attacks on the charge.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
That's what I want.
With the potential for 3 more if you take his warlord trait. So potentially 13 attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's mad.
I was looking at the Khan-led World Eaters army and just thinking to myself, that's probably how I would do it.
Yeah, he's very good. I mean, Khan he's just solid. He's just solid. He's a really solid killer character. And again, pretty much most characters of his scale, if you chuck him at them, they're gonna die. They're gonna get ground into paste. The only the ones that can stand up against him are the Abaddon, potentially. I think he'd have a very good chance against Robert. A very good chance against Robert.
From what I understand, Khan has basically moved into the same kind of area that like Robotay and an Imperial Primarch would be. He's not just a Space Marine, like a Chaos Space Marine hero. He is the pinnacle of the
He's
chapter.
the avatar of Khorne, right? He is the living avatar of Khorne at this point, like the arch messiah of the Blood God. So he's a meat grinder. He's a meat grinder. That's the thing. The only thing you've got to watch with Khan is that he's only toughness 4, so he is still just a Space Marine in that regard, So again, blast him, shoot him a lot. That's what you do with him, because you don't want him getting near you. Especially now Gorechild has had a bit of a glow up and it's now damage 3.
Nice.
Yeah, so he's chucking out a lot of damage per turn as well.
Honestly, if you'd gone back 2 years and told me that I was really considering a World Eaters army, I would have said, no, don't be daft.
I really like them. I mean, I know it's been contentious because, of course, as always happens when the cult army books come out, a lot of options have gone away,
Yeah.
They don't get a lot of the options that the Chaos Space Marines had. And, that is a real... I feel for those people who've built up like World Eaters armies based on the Chaos Space Marine Codex, because a lot of those options don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But that is the nature of the cult armies, and those options belong to Chaos Space Marines. That is kind of the way of it, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
They are their own bespoke army, and what they've got is bloody good. It's the utility. Like the Lord Invocatus, the new special character, the guy riding Juggernaut, you're gonna want him. You are going to want him. His Juggernaut flies.
What?
Yeah, his Juggernaut flies. he can fly, and he also has this aura that is unbelievably good for World Eaters. It's unbelievably good. It's called Leading the Charge, and effectively, here we are. While a friendly World Eater's core unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time that unit is selected to make a normal move or advance, until the end of the phase, add 2 inches to the move characteristic of models in that unit. So it is overcoming one of the problems that the World Eaters have, which is they've got to charge across the battlefield, right? He makes it so they move faster. It's brilliant. And if you take his Warlord trait as well, if he's the Warlord, 2 core World Eaters units within 9 inches of him get a free move at the beginning of the game, which is insanely good.
I'm just being flashback here to Van Hel's Dance Macabre here.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Is their first bonus move also combined with the plus 2 inches?
Yep.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it's pretty nice. The synergy that you've got here is excellent. They're a very interesting army to play. They're difficult to play a lot of the time. You've got to think about it, like with all the cult legions. But if you know how to do it, they are a meat grinder.
Yeah.
They're an absolute meat. They're exactly what they're supposed to be. They, from what I can see, they play like they're supposed to. And
if you had 1,000 points of World Eaters, could they beat 1,000 points of just Imperial Guardsmen?
Yes.
How many Imperial Guardsmen would there be?
There'd be a lot. There would be a lot, no doubt.
Would most of the table just be full to the point where you could barely move?
But the World Eaters would like that.
I know, yeah.
I'm getting flashbacks to Dead Rising here.
I just like the idea of just having a kind of the opposite of a zombie horde. You know, it's just fun, 4 dudes and then thousands of people with torches clicking at them and doing the thing.
The fun way of countering that would be having one of those World Eaters armies that is just like the Chaos Lord on Juggernaut, and then the rest of the list is just Khorne Berserkers. Nothing else. That would actually work really well against that, and it'd be fun. Because it would be like, it'd be a bit like that scene in Brain Dead with the lawnmower.
Oh, yeah.
Or does that mean that Khan would just suddenly proclaim, I kick ass for the Lord?
Yeah, it'd be a bit like that.
I reckon if you are a World Eaters player, what you should do is try and take as few units as possible, even if you're not even hitting the goal. So say they're taking 1,000, you take 400, and it's just all, like I say, Imperial Guardsmen, and you see how few unicorn units you can take and still win.
That's
that'd be quite fun.
That would be very interesting, actually, because you do have like some really, phenomenally elite units, like really tough, hard units in this book. I mean, World Eater's Terminators are pretty bloody nasty. They come with 4 attacks base, which is pretty bloody good, you know. And then you've got the new ones, the 8-bound and the Exalted 8-bound, and they are very difficult to kill.
I've just got the greatest idea for a game now. Thank you, Andy. And it's you play as Khan. You use the Arcs of Omen rules for the what do you call it when you fight on the spaceships? It's got a name.
boarding actions, boarding protocols.
The boarding actions, and then you just have a fuck ton of Imperial Guardsmen.
Yeah,
and you've got to get to the end. That would be such a fun game.
Make it worse. Use the Abites, just policemen.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
There you go.
I'm just a policeman. I don't want this.
Have you guys played boarding actions yet?
I haven't. No, I really want to.
It's Space Crusade.
Yeah.
It's effectively Space Crusade, and it's so much fun.
I've read the rules, and I love it. I love what I've read. It's almost like something I didn't know that I really wanted, but now it's here. I'm desperate to play it.
I tell you what, they've got to include this in 10th Ed.
Yeah.
As like an appendix or something, or an alternative way of playing 40k. They've got to include it because it's so good.
And they could do Space Hulk again.
They don't they almost don't need to. I mean, the rules
they do.
They're very
do.
similar.
Yeah.
They're very similar. They could introduce Space Hulk as an appendix or a boxed set.
Yeah, it's just a different style of boarding action. It's like it's boarding action. It just happens to also be Space Hulk. There you go.
Absolutely that. Absolutely. I mean, the missions that are in Arcs of Omen Angron are so much fun. There's one called Jailbreak, where you've literally your boarding army is trying to get to particular areas of the defender's zone to break out units that are in jail. Or in the brig. It's brilliant. It's utterly brilliant.
That would be so weird, having World Eaters running through a Space Hulk to find their brethren that's been arrested.
I get the impression.
How the fuck would you arrest them?
I was going to say, how would you arrest them for a start? You need a lot of sedatives, wouldn't you? You'd need a hell of a lot of sedatives.
You need that new Palatine Enforcer from Necromunda, that big robot guy that looks like a minion in a mech suit.
Yes.
I've got a way to convince you, Gruff, to make an Arbites little force, right?
Yeah, I really don't need that much of a push, but please go ahead.
I was going to say.
You just need 2 characters. The rest of them can be standard, and you make one of them really fat, one of them really skinny, and they're called Sam and Twitch.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, so good. So good. Either that, or you do one of them with bunny ears, one of them with a dog face, and call them Sam and Max.
That'd also work. I like that.
You do 3 of them have Sam, Max, and Twitch. Really, just mix those metaphors.
No, I mean, there's like,
you could even do like an assassin and do him up like Spawn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that'd be fun.
In Spawn colours.
Yeah, I like that.
It does mean I would have to redo my favourite Sam and Twitch panel with those miniatures every now and again. The smoke rises, the air blackens, Spawn comes out of the shadows, and then his gravelly voice says, "I have need of you." And Sam turns to him and says, "Fuck off, we're busy." Spawn just disappears back into the shadows with a little tear. I love that issue so much. Because when you turn the page, you just have Sam looking down at 5 identical penises. It's just... the fuck is this comic?
Yeah, what is this? What am I reading here?
I take it you haven't read the Sam and Twitch miniseries.
Not yet,
George.
no.
Right. I recommend it. It is fucking bizarre.
Yeah.
It's like nothing else I've ever read, like, since. On a very core design level, it's like nothing I've ever read. It doesn't have any speech bubbles.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's no speech bubbles in the entire thing. It's just the words down in white with a singular line underneath to signify who's talking, and it gives it this real cinematic quality. Yeah, fucking just read Sam and Twitch. Sam and Twitch is some of the best comics I've ever come across, and the story that they tell in that first run is blah, mind-bogglingly good.
That does sound on my alley. I've got to say, I'll have to have a look at that.
I mean, have you ever wanted to have a fat guy just looking down at 5 identical penises?
You don't want me, bearing in mind who you're talking to, you don't want me to answer that.
I mean, the mystery is, it's all the same penis. It's all from the same person.
Is this like a crossover with Crossed?
This is taking a very strange turn.
Don't worry, the 5 penises aren't lovingly rendered on the page, but it's.
I'm not interested then.
But yeah, just 5 dicks just on a table, and they all came from the same person.
Is he like a chameleon? Can he grow it back?
Nope.
Oh.
It's when you get to the five right thumbs that's real interesting. What? Why do they all have the same fingerprint? I fucking love that comic.
Swiftly on.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, there's interesting stuff happening in 40k at the moment. I just hope they don't drop the ball with the end. You know, I mean, the next episode of Arcs of Omen looks great. We've had the article about that today, where Vashtor effectively attacks the Rock, takes the war to the Dark Angels themselves.
Just screaming, Black Adam was a shit film.
I mean, like that. They've tried that before. The Rock has been besieged a couple of times, and it's always failed.
Yes. Although it happened during the rise of the Citrix Maledictum, didn't it?
Yes, the War for Fenris. Yes, it was attacked from within by Zeichan demons.
Yep, and they stole Luthor.
They did. They let Luthor out. Nobody knows where he is now. No. I wonder if they're going to carry on that story arc.
I hope so, because that's quite a big thing just to leave hanging in the air.
Isn't it? I mean, Luthor is one of the arch heretics, right? He's one of the big bads from the Horus Heresy. So yeah, fascinating stuff. And I imagine they've got to, because his background has got to be tied into the return of Lionel Johnson, right? It's got to be.
I would have thought so.
Maybe that's why he comes back. Because Luthor's been let loose.
That would make a lot of sense to me. I've got a feeling here. Should we call it a guesstimation? I was trying to combine the word premonition and guess there, and it didn't work. So, one of those. And I think it's going to be that Luthor is going to appear at some point with Vashtor, and that's going to be the thing that brings the lion out of his... is he in a slumber?
No, the lion was sucked into the warp.
That's right, yeah. Oh, there you go then. No, he just comes out running after Vashtor.
Yeah, with the destruction of Caliban, he was sucked into the warp and never seen again, half dying. You know.
What if he's riding Lehman Russ? Just like that's how you get Lehman Russ back.
Like He-Man rides Battle Cat.
Yes, yeah? yes. The other way would be real fucking weird.
That
just the warp opens and there's just. They just both look over. Hey, perverts! That'd be amazing. I'm actually in for that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's all going to come to a head with the 4th book, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whatever the 4th book is, which is a Xenos book, and the rumblings are that it's a new Xenos race that it introduces. Which it looks, I mean, if the suggestions in the book are anything to go by, it looks like it might be the Hrud.
That would be so fucking weird.
Wouldn't it?
I don't even know how you would make the Hrud work.
No, that's the problem, isn't it? What would their dynamic be in 40k, you know?
Yeah. I mean,
they can't do another shooty army. There's too many. They can't shooty army. There's only so many ways you can do the shooty armies before you get a kind of saturation. I mean, so how do they do them and make them dynamically interesting?
there's two ways that I can kind of see how they do it. One is it's a very sniper-based army, but then the Tau kind of have that wrapped up.
They kind of have that. The Necrons have got a bit of that too.
But the other one is that they become a very... So the Hrud have I think the ability to move in and out of shadow, basically. Yes. They are incredible camouflage experts. If you could do a way where you have, like you did with the Genestealer cults, where you blip it, and the blips could be something, they could be nothing, and that's how they get onto the table. That would be an interesting way of doing it, making them very commando-based.
Using terrain features, obviously. Yeah. That could work. That could potentially work.
It was so different to everything else, though, to build that as your base part of an army.
And also to have it so dependent on the layout of the battlefield would be really fascinating, right?
Oh yeah.
Because there aren't many armies that do that.
No, as I say, there's the Genestealer cult. They've got like that deep strike ability with the blips.
Sort of blip ability, which is actually really fucking good. It's amazing, that ability, and it changes the whole dynamic of the game. It feels like playing a different game when you play against Genestealer cults or play with Genestealer cults. Very characterful, very characterful.
So that would be my guess, that they may be deep strike within 3 inches of a existing terrain rather than along the side of the table or something like that. But I don't know. I really don't know.
No, nor do I. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I think it's it won't be until 10th ed, but there's going to be Dark Mechanicum at some point. Yeah. Vashtor is the sort of like the preliminary of that, and I'm looking forward to that because that's something that's people have been crying out for donkey's years. You know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And of course, the other big rumour that we've talked about a couple of times here is that the Tyranids look like they're going to be getting a bit of an overhaul.
That's so consistent. That rumour is so consistent now that I think it sounds pretty damn certain. And it's the same no matter where you go, which is it's an entire army overhaul. Like it's the aesthetic of the Tyranids is being changed.
Go back to the beginning,
right? Which is good. I mean,
what you have to do.
It's just been a long time since that range had a proper overhaul. Long time.
Do you know when it was? Yeah, 2000. Yeah.
It was the beginning of Third Ed. Way back when. way
10,000 years ago. Sorry, I was there 3,000 years ago.
At the turn of the tide, when the
cast the pewter into the fire, destroy it. No, I'll use resin instead. No.
And then a light-fingered little bastard got hold of it, and that was it.
I mean, that must have been one of the biggest overhauls that ever occurred in Third Ed, because most of the Third Ed armies carried over from Second.
Yes.
So you were still using all those those mixed metal and plastic kits and whatnot for the most part.
Oh yeah.
But the Tyranids completely changed. They were completely different between the two games.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, you look at what you had in Second Ed and Epic. I mean, Epic was like the big one for really pushing the boat out what you can and can't do with the Tyranids at that point.
Definitely.
And then in Third Ed, when they got that huge overhaul, there was nothing really left over. There was. I seem to remember the Termagants kit kept, and that was it.
That was it, though. Termagants and Genestealers, they were kept. But everything else, the warriors, the gargoyles, the Hive Tyrants, everything was changed. And of course, you had the introduction of new units like the Raveners and all of those. Even the Rippers were changed, right? Even the Rippers were different.
Yeah, completely. That was a weird one. I still prefer the Screamer Killer to the Carnifex, but
the original Screamer Killer.
Yeah, but the fact that there is a way of making quite a similar looking thing now is quite fun. And
that's kind of cool, right? And it is an actual unit now, right? I mean, the Screaming Killer is actually a distinct unit from the Carnifex now, which is actually really lovely.
It makes me happy. Makes me really happy.
Isn't that cool, right?
Yes, I'm actually really excited to see what happens with the Tyranids. Because they could do with a bit less of a uniform look.
They could also do with, like, in terms of background, a push.
Yeah, because
you know how, like, over the last, really, to be honest, since really the end of Third Ed, it's been narratively, it's been Chaos versus the Imperium, hasn't it? Really.
Isn't the problem from a narrative perspective with the Tyranids is they're more of a force of nature, and narratively you can't. There are no machinations seemingly with the Tyranids. They just appear and destroy everything.
Yeah.
And you just kind of weather the storm at the best of it. And I think that's probably why it's quite difficult to write for them. At least with Chaos, you can, there are evil Machiavellian villains to deal with and forces to push back.
I would like to draw your attention to the original Inquisitor Cryptman stories, where you get to see the entire thing happen from the point of view of what would later become a lictor.
Yeah.
And you get to see him eat all the animals.
There's no sort of, like, guiding intelligence or agenda behind the Tyranids as such as we would understand it. Like, there's no Abaddon equivalent.
And you can't really change that about them, because that would... Because then they're just a generic race at that point. They're not the Tyranids then.
Yeah. Also, it removes one of the fundamental mysteries that drives them, makes them interesting, right? The way to write them is from the perspective of cosmic horror, sort of Lovecraftian. That's the way to write them. And it could be done. You could do a whole sort of, like, campaign based on that. But it is difficult. It is difficult because of that lack of a wider agenda.
Are you saying you don't want a bit where a Psyker kidnaps a Norn queen and just starts shouting, "She's afraid! She's afraid!" and everyone starts cheering?
Oh, that'd be really fun.
But no, just make them more of a threat again. They've lost a bit of impetus since, like, all the stuff with High Fleet Leviathan, sort of, like, worming its way up from the galactic south and all of that. They've lost a little bit of impetus, haven't they? They're not as much of a threat as they used to be. That's what they need.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is that you've got these splinter fleets, and that's kind of made it seem like they're too much of a generic threat. Yeah, I love the idea of the splinter fleets. I think that's really cool, but it means that it's the Metallics problem, to go back to Sonic the Comic from earlier on. In the Sonic Terminator, the Metallics, when there was one of them, is a real threat and was terrifying.
Yes.
When there's 50 or 60 of them, they just get destroyed.
Yeah, they just become generic badniks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what you've got here. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They've just become one of the established threats in the universe, right?
Yeah. So they need to do some serious damage in the narrative.
Yeah. They need to come back in force, don't they? They need to, like, start destroying worlds and systems, and, like, there needs to be a situation where everyone is afraid of them. The forces of chaos, the Imperium, the Necrons, the Eldari. Everyone is terrified, right?
I've always had this idea, and it's a shame that it's never really happened. What happens when a Tyranid Hive fleet gets close to the Eye of Terror?
Yeah, interesting, right?
Because the Shadow in the Warp would automatically just start wreaking all sorts of havoc.
It would be problematic for the forces of chaos, that's for damn sure, because the Eye of Terror relies upon the influence of the Warp to sustain itself, right?
Absolutely. So you'd have these weird...
Right. You'd have these weird, like, calm periods, which would mean that certain, like, areas within the Eye of Terror would stop functioning.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how you do the Tyranids. You don't do Tyranids versus Space Marines. You do Tyranids versus Chaos.
Yeah. No,
that's a better... Also, just in the thing, because it takes the Space Marines out of the spotlight for a bit and puts the other... Granted, they're still Space Marines, but it puts the other Space Marines, who just happen to be evil, in the forefront. Because Chaos have never had to deal with a Hive fleet, at least from a not as a big narrative campaign.
Not in the same way that the Imperium has. No.
Yeah, because they've done quite a few. So why not have, like you say, them go to the Eye of Terror, like beeline to the Eye of Terror, and then the Chaos Space Marines have to fight them, but without the aids of demons.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. I mean, like, the World Eaters like them.
Of course.
Oh, sure. I imagine Angron wouldn't to an extent, because I imagine they would slightly disrupt him, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I've just had a horrible thought.
Yeah, they might.
Right, I'm going to put this one out here as one of Adam's possible futures.
Oh my god.
That's how this ends. It's the Lion leads the Tyranids towards Angron, Abaddon, and Rashtor.
Actually, that would
with a little pipe.
Yeah, just like doo.
That could actually be a good way of sort of stabilizing the situation.
Yeah,
that could work actually. In narrative terms, that could work. It's been done before. It's been done before. The Eldari did it when they guided Thraka towards Armageddon.
Yes.
You know, to prevent him from attacking like Eldari worlds.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the other way I want this to end. I want it to be like Angron. It looks like everything's coming together. Angron's about to win. And then all of a sudden, Thraka just like does planetfall without a spaceship just to punch him in the face.
What, for killing Yarrick?
Yeah. He was my favourite Umi. Gonna fucking wreck you.
Actually, I would love to see a fight between Angron and Thraka. I think that would go down very well.
Especially as Thraka is now.
Does Thraka have a tattoo of like Yarrick in like a heart shape on his boob? Yeah. Is that a thing?
I think it goes way deeper than that. I think he's got a shrine somewhere. I think he's got a Dakimura of Yarrick somewhere.
Have you seen that shooter game where you play as the orcs and it's like a...
Oh, big shooter or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So you find Thraka's chambers in that game, and in it there is a little picture of Yarrick surrounded by candles.
Really? That's nice.
Absolutely brilliant. But you see, I want that to be canon. I want them to write that in the next Orc Codex. I want that there. I want a picture of it.
I don't know how I feel about about Ghazghkull going after Ragnar all the time now. It just
I mean, it does make sense in the sense that like Yarrick was an old guy. You know,
he
had to kind of die. It's a shame, but yeah, I know what you mean. The way they got around Asaka Creed's death is good. You know, where it's just his daughter. You know.
Oh yeah.
Who's basically him.
Yeah.
She's not much different.
Why don't you have it as in like a really crappy like narrative surprise where Thraka's about to kill Ragnar, and just as he does, this dreadnought hand closes around his hand and says, "Hello, old friend," and it uppercuts him, and he goes, "Yes, back in a dreadnought."
Brilliant idea. I love it.
The cheese would be great.
But you'd pump the air with joy, wouldn't you? You're just like, fucking right.
I mean, like, what would be amazing is if, like, I know that he was too old, they couldn't do it, but if they somehow put him through like the Space Marine process, he's like a chapter master of his own orc hunting fleet of Space Marines.
They made the Primaris; they can do whatever they like.
I know. They can. It's a fantasy.
It doesn't matter anymore.
They can do whatever they like. It doesn't matter. Of course it.
Well, I think it's more like, from my perspective, they broke their rules in a little bit. We just happened to find this thing, so it's like, well, you've already broken your rules, so you may as well just keep breaking it at this point. Why not?
100% fair.
Doesn't matter.
Always done that. They've always done that. I mean, like the Space Marines weren't Space Marines in not as we understand them in the original Warhammer 40k. They were just human beings in armor.
Yep.
They were just human beings in armor in the original. There were no Primarchs back then. Horus was just a human general. Loads. They've changed it loads, and they keep changing it as time goes on. You know, as happens with these sort of like pseudo fantasy settings and mythologies, you can effectively justify what you like. You know, that's what the setting is for.
Yeah. But no, I love the idea of like one of those big Sisters of Battle engines just coming online, and it's just Yarrick's brain inside it.
Yarrick's brain, Yarrick's head or something.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah, just Yarrick's head sticking on the top.
Wired into a big orc hunting death machine.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I mean, the other way of getting around it, obviously, and this is another obvious sci-fi way of doing it, is that the Imperium knows that Yarick was a legendary figure, and that his presence was inspiring and whatnot, so they clone him. You know, it was fairly easy. You know, there's a vat of Yarick clones around somewhere. Job's done.
There is a inquisitorial group who is dedicated to making sure time travel doesn't happen.
But we know that time travel does happen in the 40K universe.
It does.
So there's an entire Thousand Suns cult dedicated to it, the Cult of Time.
So somebody just goes back in time, gets Yarick from back when, then they drop him back when he's finished, and that's why he's always been an old man.
Fair enough.
Yep. Yeah. So we get young man Yarick in the future and old man Yarick in the past.
His death was exaggerated. It was a lie of the Inquisition. It turns out that he's been given rejuvenate treatments and he's been on some mission to do blah, 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 blah. Comes back with, I don't know, some horde of legendary warriors that save the Imperium, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's easy. There's always a way around this bullshit.
Do you know what would be a really good way of doing it, right? And this kind of combines a lot of what we've said. So, right, same thing happens. Ragnar's about to get his shit absolutely wrecked by Thraka. And then the fiery portals start to open, and you just have a singular Legion of the Damned guy come out, and he's wearing the Yarick hat.
I do like that idea. And, you know, on a more serious note, another way of doing it is just doing what they did with the Asaka Creed, get one of his descendants to take up the role. Yeah, because I'm sure he had them.
Oh, well, I think he was a bit too busy, you know.
That's true.
None of that forging relationships when you're trying to pull the eyes out of an orc.
No, true, but, you know, it's easy.
Unless he married an orc.
I know. I mean, obviously, the other way of doing it is that the orcs bring him back, right? Like their belief in him manifests him as a kind of warp thing, right?
Yeah. See, that's kind of how. If it's not Dreadnought, I want him to be a weird war ghost.
Effectively a demon.
Yeah. that would make me very, very happy.
Yeah. I kind of like that. Well, I mean, there's precedent for that kind of thing happening. You've got Saint Celestine, right?
Yeah.
She is a manifestation of faith. She is a, you know, positive, I suppose, if you could call it that, warp manifestation, right? There's no reason Yarick couldn't be exactly that.
How good would it be to have Yarick come back as like this imperial demon creature?
Yeah.
But he's also in charge of all of the soldiers who died under his command.
Wow, Ghost Legion.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. I love it. Ghost Imperial Guard. I love it.
I think I've just talked myself into an Imperial Guard army.
That would be an amazing Imperial Guard army. A Ghost Legion. You could paint them like I've done my Thousand Suns. Easy peasy.
Yep. Or you could do it with contrast just so easily.
Yeah. And it would look so good.
Yeah.
It would look so good. You could even mix them with Nighthaunt bits and pieces. Oof.
Yeah, I'm really liking this idea actually.
That would be an amazing project. You could do that such character.
Yeah, then you just start mining the old haunted tank myths from World War II.
Yeah, absolutely. The you know, the Revenant Legions. Yeah, I love it.
And they could, you could alliance them with Legion of the Damned as well.
Yes. I mean, I think that would be spectacular.
It really would.
A project that would be absolutely amazing.
Ah, shitballs.
No shitting balls here. Not unless you've got Hanky.
Again, I mean, have you got the Astra Militaria Codex, Adam?
I don't actually know. I'm way behind at the moment.
Tell you, they were always the codices I was least interested in because it's just squishy human beings, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't interest me. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. There's so much character in it. There's so much character.
Oh, James, a big friend of the podcast, James, he's so into it that he's actually like dusting off an Imperial Guard army for the first time in like 15 years.
I think they've done them real justice. They are, I mean, they're not my army at all.
No.
But I tell you what, I can see how, like, Imperial Guard players, it's got to be the happiest that they've been for years.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is the best codex they've had since, like, 4th Ed.
Well, from what I understand, it's probably the best codex they've had, full stop.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would go with that. I would go with that, to be honest. I mean, that some of the stuff they can do is insane. That bloody missile thing that can, like, destroy entire sections of the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
Madness.
I love
Absolute insanity. It's so good, though.
And it's the fact that you can actually build a tank-heavy army with very little in the way of the troops. It's just nothing but tanks. That calls to me. That really does call to me.
And you can also include some of the super heavies now in the actual, like, without thinking about with Forge World and whatnot. You can just include them. They are there in the army list, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's on my list. I've got a very long list at the moment. Very, very long list. We've been on for quite some time this evening, but there is one thing I really wanted to get to, because I don't think I'm going to get much of a chance to talk about it anywhere else to anyone else, and that is The God Eater's Son, a Age of Sigmar book that I both really, really, really like and really, really, really hate at exactly the same time.
It's the One Ring. Is it the book Forged in the Fires of Mount Doom?
It is. I tried to slip it on my finger and it bit me. It was
Oh my god!
Oh, it did make you invisible.
No, just bit me, little bastard. It's a really, really good book, and it does lots of really interesting stuff. But fuck me, sideways, it just spins its wheels so much.
That's such a shame, isn't it? I mean, like, it's difficult because like there's so much good stuff coming out of the Black Library at the moment, right? Mm-hmm. When you get one that isn't quite as good, it really shows, right? Really, you feel it.
I'm really sad because you kind of mentioned this to us in our little Facebook DMs, and I was hoping that you were going to say that it was going to pick up by the end, but you did mention it. At least me or George said it, so it sounds like it needed an editor, and it sounds like even by the end, it really needed an editor, which it never got. The editor needed to step in a bit more.
What it needed to do was have about a third of the book cut out.
So to do a short story, Well,
I mean, it's a fucking big book.
Maybe.
So not a short story, it just needs a lump pulled from it just to speed up the pacing.
Yeah.
Or do you think like stuff needs to be changed to change it to make the pacing just work faster?
The problem is that the middle of the book is a lot of the God Eater's son and his ragtag army that he's slowly building goes to place, has fight, wins fight, gets bigger army, goes to place, wins fight.
Is it what I like to call the sort of J.K. Rowling effect, which is the and then style of storytelling? And then.
It's more like a Bernard Cornwell issue, where everything that's happening is good, but it's just getting a little bit too, and then he went and won.
Yeah.
And then he went and won. And the middle of the book has this... It's really annoying because there is so much stuff going on around it. I'm going to spoil big chunks of this, so if you're going to read it, go forth and do what you need to do. But there are 5 plates spinning through this book which are really, really good. Plate number 1. For the majority of the book, the main character, Fall, he refuses the gods. Completely. Doesn't matter if they're Sigmar, doesn't matter if they're Chaos, he classifies them as stupid and arrogant, and he hates them all, and he wants nothing to do with them. And anytime anybody... Say again?
Doesn't like gods.
No, hates gods. And that's the thing that kicks off the entire... everything that happens in the book. He meets a devout person, his sister's devout, and in a moment of madness, he murders the priestess and throws his sister off a cliff. But to be fair, they were about to be beast-manned, so...
Right, okay.
But yeah, he just murders all of these people.
Wait, do you mean turned into beastmen, or do you mean like kissed by beastmen?
They were going to get beast-manned. They were... we'll say they're going to be beast-man-handled and leave it at that.
Freddy got fingered kind of style.
Well, they're all going to get sacrificed, so he, in his moment of madness, decided it would be better for everybody if they died quickly by his hand rather than slowly at the hands of the Beastmen. So he murders every single person in this camp, this prison camp. It's like, okay, that's.
I imagine Korn starts whispering to him at that point, right?
Right. This is plate number 2, which is really interesting. You keep getting told that Korn's interested in him.
It would be after that.
Yeah, Korn. They keep calling Korn the God Eater, and they use him as quite a fatherly figure. They present Korn as being this. It doesn't matter from where the blood flows as long as it flows. So instead of it being a guttural threat, it's more of a it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. He loves you because you are either the killer or the killed. So either way, you are doing what he wants.
Interesting.
They present him as this very gentle, fatherly figure, and it works. It really works. Yeah,
I like that.
Beautiful. It's so good.
I like that.
And as the book goes along, you start to give this idea that what they've been worshipping isn't Korn. Don't know what it is. But the God Eater isn't Korn, because a Kornate priestess goes into the realm of chaos with Fall, and the shadow, the God Eater, starts talking to them and starts like telling them what they need to be doing. And when they come out, she's diminished because whatever they spoke to wasn't Korn.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right, and that's like, okay, this is really cool. And the God Eater starts trying to give Fall these gifts, and he keeps denying them. It's like, no. I don't want your gifts. I'm going to do this by myself. I don't need a god. And everyone around him's like, you need to follow a god in order to get anywhere. It's like, I fucking don't, mate. In his background, so he and his sister survived a Beastman attack when they were children. The father was killed by Beastmen. The mother picked up a saucepan and a knife and tried to fight them, right? She then got Stormcast.
Like that too.
Oh, they probably did. She then got Stormcast, and his mother comes back as a Stormcast to try and stop him. Which is like, I don't think that's ever been done.
No, I like that. That's actually a really interesting concept.
Yeah, there's this wonderful dynamic between them as he's like wrestling with, this is my mother, also she is my enemy.
Yeah.
And she's trying to like get him off this path, but of course he's like, well, no, I'm not following a fucking god. Yeah, but all of your followers defiled all the bodies in every town you've taken over. Yeah, they did that. I didn't.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? No. You know, you may not be following a god, but the gods like you, regardless.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that's what it plays with, and it's why when you've got this fucking lump in the middle of the book, which is a real fight to get through, it's so angry. It makes me so angry because everything that's happening around it is so good.
The concepts are good, the ideas are good.
And they're executed really well. It's not like it's really good concepts and they don't land. They all land. It's just, as I say, the middle of this book is a fight. It does sound like struggle.
What Andy was saying earlier is right. It sounds like it probably needed another editor, right?
Yeah. As I say, I think you could have taken out. Yeah. You could have taken out 7 chapters in the middle of that book and replaced it with a singular chapter that had a bird's eye view of everything they did. And you'd have had the same effect, and it would have been quicker and had more of a punch, and it would have just moved faster. And
interesting.
And it's so annoying. It really is. Because as I say, there's so much stuff.
Yeah, especially considering, like, I mean, both you and I have been reading, like, The End and the Death, right? And it's great. I mean, thus far, not finished it yet, nowhere near finished it yet, but thus far, it's like Abnett firing on all cylinders, right?
It is. It really is. I mean, I'm reaching the middle now. And I know I said to you guys earlier today, or maybe yesterday, that there's no real surprises here. It's just really solid. And then I thought about it and went, actually, no, there's 2 real big fucking surprises. I won't get into what those surprises are, but Yeah, there's two fairly large ones that kind of threw me. One of them especially like, well, you've gone a completely different path to where I thought you were going with this, and I'm a little bit shocked. But yeah, it is good. It is.
That's
The end of the
far.
death is.
You know, I was worried after Echoes of Eternity, because Echoes of Eternity was so good
Yeah.
that this could only be a step down. It could only be a step down. But thus far, I'm really enjoying it. I've got to say, I think it's very interesting.
Without getting into any real spoilers or anything like that, have you an opinion on Horus?
It's very, at the moment, I need to read more.
Okay.
I need to go deeper because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think at the moment. I'll be honest. I actually don't know what to think.
No.
In the same way, I don't know what to think of what the Emperor is really doing.
It's interesting to get this much Emperor weight, isn't it?
And history, right? Stuff that's actually confirmed.
Yeah.
You know, which was only ever just rumors before. So one of the big rumors that's always floated around is that the Emperor was certain historical figures. You know, like some people said that he I mean, I think it was mentioned in one of the earlier books. Actually, he was not Christ, but he was there.
Yeah.
He was present. Another one that's been floating around for years is that he was Alexander the Great, and in this book, absolutely confirmed he was Alexander the Great. That was one of his many lives. But what is also confirmed is that he's been many people throughout his life, and those people that he's been have not been confined by parameters of, for example, age or gender. He's been women, he's been men, he's been children, he's been tyrants, he's been prophets, he's been saints, he's been just sort of like almost everything humanity can be, depending on what he preconceived was required at the time.
Do you find the use of the facets and the symbolisms in the book to be absolutely jaw-droppingly on point?
Yeah.
It is. It's one of those things where Abnett's always had a thing for symbolism, and it's always been something that's there, and he's used it very well. But symbolism and metaphor make up such a massive part of the backbone of this story that it's incredible.
It's really good. I mean, thus far, it's really well written, and Abnett's always been the one who's written Horus the best of all the Black Library writers. I mean, others have tried and haven't really. They've always not quite hit the mark with him. You know, he often tends to be, certainly in the Horus Heresy novels, they take him too far down the supervillain routes. They make him too arrogant, so it just doesn't work. Abnett's always gotten him right. And thus far, it's great to see him return to form.
Yeah. I'm full of pity for him, is my opinion, I think, is I'm going to put it. That at this point in time, where I am, I have a lot of pity for Horus.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any more than that. I'm going to leave it there, because there is stuff I am clambering to talk about from that book, but we will not do that here.
No,
doesn't it make you wish that Galaxy in Flame and False Gods were better books?
Oh god, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because they could have set this stuff up. Unfortunately, one is okay and the other's bad.
Yeah,
that's true. It's true. That's the thing with the Horus Heresy novels, isn't it? Because you've got so many different writers, you know.
The problem is, like, those three are your starting point. They're your most important books. There are bad ones like Nemesis, but Nemesis doesn't matter, so who cares if it's shit? Outcast of the Dead is shit, and no one, it doesn't matter because it doesn't add to anything, so who cares? Yeah. It's like, but those three, the first one was great, and then, like I say, it kind of went downhill. Those three were very important to get right. Yeah. The first one was great. Yeah. And the third one,
yeah. And from
there, I realized they can't go and rewrite it because that's kind of a bit of a faux pas. Really. It's a bit of a naughty, even though it would maybe be appreciated.
And from there, it's sort of up and down, isn't it? Some of them are absolutely spectacular, and some of them are really not.
Yeah,
It's a tricky one. You kind of got to the best thing to do with the Horus Heresy books is go and look for like a roadmap. Look for those ones that are considered essential.
Wait a minute, didn't somebody do one of those for their website?
I believe they may have.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe go check out the Fluffenhammer blog and have a look at the roadmap there.
Yeah. And there are, there are those that are absolutely standout, like the first heretic is, it's amazing. It's just fantastic.
And Aaron Dembski Bowden, you're good. Just read
it. It's written by Aaron Dembski Bowden.
Yeah, it's probably going to be good.
It's it's almost a cert, that it's going to be good. Dan Abnett's kind of the same. Most of what he writes is really, really good.
Apart from, I think the only one is Mechanicus, right? That isn't good.
No, that was...
That wasn't Abnett, was it?
No. Oh, is that not Abnett? No. I thought that was Abnett for some reason.
I don't think so.
Is that Graham McNeil?
That's the one, yeah.
Okay. McNeil, that's a surprise too, because he's usually quite reliable.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised, because I remember, I couldn't remember who did it, but I remember being like, man, I'm sure you do good stuff, so why is this one just dull? Is it because it's the Mechanicus? I don't know.
That must have been it, just like the subject matter didn't appeal to him or something, but read Fulgrim.
Yeah, it's great.
It's an absolutely fantastic book.
Mechanicum was written by Graham McNeil.
Oh, damn. Maybe I was thinking of a different one from Abnett. Which ones did Abnett do?
He only did Horus Rising and...
the Alpha Legion one, right?
Did he do the Alpha? No, that was Graham McNeil. He did Legion.
That Graham McNeil as well?
Yeah,
I thought... oh, damn. Gruff, tell us. Tell us the things.
I'm having a look. So he... No, that is just all of the books. That's
I was going to say, Legion, I'm fairly certain it's Graham McNeil. I don't know. You may be right, Andy. It may be Abnett.
Because I thought wasn't John Mechanicus.
You were going to say John Mechanicus.
Wasn't John in Legion?
Yes, he was. Yes, John Grammaticus was in Legion.
Grammaticus. Same thing. Mechanicus, Grammaticus.
John Mechanicus.
That sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
Didn't he do what was it called? Where Horus becomes godly. What was that one called? What was that one? And there was another perpetual on that planet. The lady. Because I'm pretty sure he's the only one that wrote the perpetuals. Generally, especially John. I'm pretty sure John didn't turn up in anybody else's.
There is one. I can't remember which one it is, but I'm fairly certain he did.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
So I've got a list here. So Dan Abnett wrote Horus Rising, Legion.
He did write Legion. Yeah, well done, Andy. Yeah.
Prospero Burns.
Oh, he did Prospero Burns, did he?
Surprising. Okay.
No
Fear.
I love it. No Fear. Oh, another very good one.
Yeah.
Vulcan Lives.
Unremembered Empire.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good.
That makes sense.
Really good.
A couple of anthologies. Gav Thorpe really did more than I thought he did.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh,
poor Gav. I know he's legendary in this field. I know that, but he's not a good writer. He's just not.
Well, he is when it comes to like campaign books and narrative campaign books, but
he's fine at that. He's fine at that. But when it comes to fiction, it's a case of like he was just in an area where he had the opportunity. He's not good at what he does.
I'm actually surprised how many Ben Counter wrote.
Yeah. Eek.
Sorry, Ben.
Yeah. Again, apologies. But. You did do Battle for the Abyss.
Yes.
He did Galaxy Burns as well. That's the one that annoys me.
Yeah.
Galaxy Burns, good God. Right, should we start drawing this all to a close? Because we've been going for...
Sure. I mean, the only thing I can think of to speak about as well is that I've also been reading The Red Angel.
Yes.
I believe is Guy Haley. That one.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Is that Angron the Red Angel?
It's Angron the Red Angel, yeah. And it's really good fun. It's really good fun. great characterization of
written by David Guymer.
David Guymer, that's it, not Guy Haley, that's right. It's a lot of fun. Establishes that the Conqueror is still around and that Latara Saren is still its captain, sort of.
Oh, this is a current book. This isn't a Horus Heresy. Oh, okay.
This is 40k. This is Angron now. It's the World Eaters now.
Neat.
And it's really good fun. It's really good fun. It's trying to establish like what the World Eaters actually are and how they function in the present day. And it's manic. It's crazy. It really is. And how you get like new recruits to the World Eaters. So like one of the characters is a renegade. He's a renegade space marine from his chapter, and he somehow fetishized the notion of the Butcher's Nails as a kind of like the epitome of what the space marines were built for. You know, for killing. You know, and that's what he's seeking. He wants the Butcher's Nails. It's just fascinating, you know. The whole thing is fascinating, and Angron is in it, and he's like, he's always viewed from the perspective of someone else. So when he occurs, he's like a phenomena, you know. He's not like a living thing. He's like a hurricane or a natural disaster, and it's utterly brilliant. Really is good.
I was going to mention it earlier on, actually. You just reminded me, speaking of books. I have in my possession something, you probably heard me just take it off the shelf there, as other things tried to fall off with it. I have in my possession a book that I haven't owned for a very, very, very long time. And that is the Dark Imperium anthology. Now, does anybody remember this one?
I do remember it, yes. A very long time ago.
Yeah. It's got, funnily enough, it's got a story in it called Hellbreak by Ben Counter. So that's interesting. But there is a story in this called Ancient History, written by Andy Chambers, which is the reason I have dug this back out and managed to find a copy. This is the first appearance, as far as I'm aware, of the Men of Iron in the 40k history.
Oh, wow. God almighty. So that's a landmark, right?
Yeah. So my plan... My God, copyright 2000. Jesus Christ. So my plan is I'm going to be doing readings of this to get the entire book. Because some of these...
2000. Is this pre-Black Library?
It is one of the first Black Library releases.
Be one of the first, because like it was established around that time, like the mark was established around that time.
That's correct. The if you remember, the first things that came out were the reprint of Conrad.
Yep, Storm of Iron was one of the
Storm
earliest.
of Iron. This they reprinted Deathwing, but they took the squats out.
Yep,
lame.
Replaced it with a Tech Priest, which was a really weird thing to read. Tech Priest just like rubbing his hands and.
It doesn't really work, does it?
Stop fucking praying to your fucking tanks, you fucking morons.
I bet they're regretting that now.
Oh, absolutely. If they ever do a fourth reprint of Deathwing, you know he's going to be a Votan, and that's going to be brilliant. And then of course they did the the Felix and Gotrek anthologies and launched Gaunt's Ghosts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because those were some of like the big titles, right?
Yep. Yeah, they were the opening salvos. So, if anybody out there has the name of Kenneth Porter, please know that I have your copy of Dark Imperium, and I will be using it to read the stories for the YouTube channel.
Oh, brilliant! That's fantastic.
So I'm actually quite enjoying trying to find these old Black Library out of print stories. Because I've got the Savant series, if you remember that one.
Oh, God, no.
It's Sherlock Holmes, but in Warhammer. It's a weird hawk-like alchemist fella who solves crimes with his halfling apprentice.
Okie dokie, as you do.
Yep. Written by Gordon Rennie. They are great fun. Really, really good fun. So, yeah, I'm going to try and find as many of these original Black Library ones as I can. Because some of these anthologies are great. So,
especially from that era, that's a very interesting era because they're still establishing kind of like the house style and whatnot at that point.
Oh god, yeah. I mean, there's some absolutely wonderful turns of phrases in here that you just don't get to see. Right, here's a good one for you. The morass undulated gently, lit by the phosphorescence of the vast colonies of bacteria and fungi. It spread so far through the subterranean darkness that it formed the horizon, and far away island-sized buboes spurted like volcanoes. It's just wonderful imagery, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really like, I mean, that's the thing about Warhammer fiction. It's always really overwrought, and it's meant to. That's the way it is, right? That's its style.
Yeah.
And it works. It works,
So keep your eyes open for that, because that is going to be coming to the YouTube channel.
Oh, cool! That's fun.
When I get around to doing them all, because I'm going to try and get them all recorded before I start putting them out. And as it takes about 2 hours to read one of these things, it might take a while for me to get them all done. Yeah.
Cool.
So with all that being said, then, Andy. If people wanted to summonize you as if you were some form of greater demon, what items would they use, and what would they type into their magical web browsers?
It sounds like something you've asked me before.
Alright then, I'll change it. If they wanted to stalk you in order to peel your skin and wear you like some brand new type of mansuit, where could they find you in order to start the process of peeling?
I mean, it's a shame. I've lost most of my skin being a zombie and all, but that's not my problem. That's their problem. They've got to find something else. They've got to skin my bones.
If you were to be the final magical item in a mystical, magical fucking quest, what internet dungeons would they use, and how would they quest through them? Is that one work for you, Andy? Does that one work?
Yeah, that sounds all right. Yeah, that sounds fine. You want to find me? You can find me on Twitch as Decayed Andy, YouTube as Decayed Andy. I'm on the Moonbase 2 podcast, where me and Mike talk about Transformers each and every week. We also live stream on my Twitch and the Moonbase 2 YouTube channel. And if you just put Moonbase 2 in, you'll probably find us in the Google engines and whatnot.
Excellent.
Come on by.
Yeah. George. What are you doing? I'm out of
You're out
overblown
of
hyperbole now. So, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. At the moment, you can find me over at Exaggerated Elegy on YouTube, where we do various different podcasts and video game let's plays and whatnot. Coming up, I've got a really excellent conversation with my friend Jack Graham, Marxist scholar, brilliant guy. We discussed the first 2 Poltergeist films, which was enormous fun. That'll be coming out very, very soon. I don't know why, but I started doing Bloodborne again for the 4th time on my YouTube. I don't know why, but I love it, and I'm back in Yharnam, and it's like coming home. It really is. It's like coming home. It's one of the best video games I've ever played, and I always feel great when I'm playing it. So that's happening over there. Also playing the remake of Dead Space at the moment, which is great fun. Over on my new YouTube channel, Our Lives in Horror, got quite a few interviews with various different people from the small press and independent publishing scene, mostly horror, with a few more coming up. There is an interview with the author Simon Bestwick coming up very soon, which I'm very, very pleased with. Also, if you want to check out my published work, you can find links to it over at strangeplaygrounds.com. There's also the My Life in Horror series, which is a series of essays and articles about sort of like my experience of horror fiction and media, and how it shaped like my imagination and who I am, and where all the insanity comes from. Effectively, it's like a sort of like confessional therapy in a weird kind of way, which you can find over at gingernutsofhorror.com. And if you fancy a chat, you can come and chat to me over on Twitter at Enigmatic Elegy.
Excellent stuff. As for myself, you can find this show at the Fluffenhammer on Facebook and Twitter, and I tried Reddit for a while, it didn't really take. We have a Discord. The Discord is lovely. It's full of lovely people doing lovely things. One of these lovely people is over in Japan at the moment, and I'm not jealous of the pictures that he's been posting.
I'm glad I'm not looking, because I'd be upset.
I would be jealous.
He had a great story about how he went to a YouTube dinner the other night in Tokyo, and ended up finding out that every other person on his table played Warhammer.
Brilliant. Utter brilliance.
He's also now been to the smallest Warhammer shop in the world. Not jealous. Not
Brilliant.
jealous, Darren. Not jealous at all.
I love it.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Grufflock. You can find me on Facebook as AD Nickel. Obviously, I also have a personal Facebook thing, but I really fucking use Facebook for anything other than the Fluffenhammer and my art these days. So, yeah. Sorry. You can find us all on Instagram at the Fluffenhammer and at AD Nickel, and also, yeah, everything is great. I'm now going to finish off with a question that I asked at the beginning of the show to the people out there in wonderful social media land, and we only got one answer. The question I asked was, who would you like to have from the 40k universe to help you solve an Agatha Christie murder mystery? Big swinging D answers with Trazyn and Orican, the downside being that they'd solved the murder centuries or millennia after it happened, or may have done the deed themselves.
Yes,
Ibram Gaunt would actually take the time to diligently investigate the crime. Cyphers Kane and Jurgen. Kane would latch onto the wrong subject, then look into the correct culprit. Eldred Ulthran knows who did it, when and why, probably because he adjusted events to cause them to murder the victim.
Very true. Very true.
And that is the perfect way to say goodnight. Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye, guys.
Ah.